Hello there, dear listener. Tonight, before you drift into dreams, let's slow down together. Outside your window, the night might be humming with its own quiet rhythm. Street lamps glowing, insects murmuring, or perhaps the hush of rain brushing softly against the glass. Wherever you are, this is a space carved just for you, a small corner of stillness in a world that rarely stops moving. Breathe with me for a moment. Inhale gently, like the tide gathering itself at the edge of the shore. Exhale softly, like the tide slipping back into the sea. With each breath, the room around you becomes calmer, quieter. The weight of the day loosens its grip, and the questions of tomorrow can wait just a little longer. Right now, there is only you, the steady rhythm of your body, and the vastness of a story that stretches far beyond the horizon of your own thoughts. Because tonight, we are not talking about errands left undone or the hum of daily worries. Tonight, we are looking outward, past the walls of your home, past the curve of our planet, past even the glittering swarm of stars that crown the sky. We are reaching toward the edge of the known, where visitors from interstellar space occasionally sweep through like wanderers with no map. Comets, fragile and luminous, carrying in their icy cores the secrets of time before time. Two such travelers, known as SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas, are among them. They are not part of our solar system, not loyal to the sun's familiar pull. They are drifters from somewhere else, arriving without warning, passing through once, and then vanishing forever. Imagine them for a moment, icy bodies forged in distant star nurseries, gliding across the deep dark, tails glowing faintly as starlight catches the dust they shed. They do not come with intention. They are not guided by a hand, yet their presence feels almost purposeful, as if they carry a message not in words but in chemistry, in the simplest molecules that can bloom into life. And yet, the story we ask tonight is not only about their beauty, it is about danger, about resistance, about the unsettling possibility that something in the universe might not want them to reach us. It sounds like a riddle whispered at the edge of sleep. What if something is trying to destroy SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas before they ever arrive? Not a meteor crashing against them by accident, not sunlight tearing them apart in the ordinary way comets sometimes crumble, but something more, an unseen force, an intentional interference, a cosmic barrier designed to keep these messengers away. Pause there. Notice how your mind reacts to that question. Does it feel thrilling, frightening, or simply strange? The thought itself is enough to bend the imagination, to turn the quiet sky outside your window into a theater where battles might be fought without sound or spectacle. You don't have to decide what you believe. For now, it's enough just to wonder. That's the gift of nights like this, wonder without conclusion, curiosity without the pressure to resolve. So settle deeper into your pillow. Let the muscles in your face soften, your jaw unclench, your shoulders loosen. There is no rush. We are going to take our time, wandering slowly through science, myth, and philosophy, letting each idea unfold like a page turned gently in a book. Think of comets as stories themselves, ancient stories written in ice and stone. Long ago, cultures saw them as omens, fiery spears streaking across the heavens, heralds of war, plague, or change. To others, they were gifts, carriers of divine messages or sparks of creation. Today, scientists see them as capsules of the early universe, frozen archives containing the building blocks of life. Whether through myth or microscope, comets have always been more than stones. They have been mirrors for our hopes and fears. Now imagine, as you lie here, that far beyond the edges of sight, these two visitors, SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas, are moving closer. They carry within them dust and frozen gases older than Earth itself. They might hold amino acids, simple molecules that once seeded oceans and sparked the story of life. They are like letters from a cosmic library, written in a language we are only beginning to translate. And yet, just as they approach, something intervenes. The question is not whether they are fragile, Of course they are. Many comets break apart near the Sunday. Their icy cores can fracture. Their glowing tails can thin and vanish. But the idea we hold tonight is stranger. What if destruction comes not from chance but from resistance? Could there be forces natural, cosmic, or even intelligent that do not wish these messengers to deliver their secrets? If so, why? What might be at stake in the silence of space? You do not need to answer now. Let the question linger, like the echo of a bell that keeps humming long after it has been struck. The sound fades, but the vibration remains. As you listen, notice your own body. Notice how your breathing has grown slower. Notice how the thought of comets fragile, temporary somehow matches the fragility of the moment you're in. Just as they pass once and vanish, so do our days, our nights, our thoughts. Each comet, each moment, comes only once. Perhaps that is why we long to catch them, to hold them in memory, to believe they are more than accidents of ice. Here, in this opening chapter of our journey, all we need to do is prepare the ground, prepare the quiet space in which the story can bloom. Tonight's exploration will move slowly, like the orbit of distant planets. We will circle the myths, glide past the science, touch gently upon the philosophies that arise when we ask questions too large for daylight. And when we speak of something trying to destroy Swan and 3, I divided by Atlas, remember that destruction in this story is not loud or violent. It is subtle. It is the quiet erasure of possibility. A comet that never arrives is a message never read, a chance never taken, a life never sparked. That is what makes the question so haunting. So, as you let your eyes grow heavier, hold on to this image. 2 luminous travelers, born in places we will never see, carrying in their fragile hearts the possibility of beginnings. And somewhere, something waits in the dark, indifferent or intentional, ready to scatter them before they reach us. What is it? We don't yet know. But tonight, together, we will wander through the possibilities, scientific, mythical, and philosophical. We will look at what it means to imagine obstacles in space, and what that says about our own fears of obstacles on Earth. For now, let the thought be gentle. Not frightening, not urgent. Just a slow unfolding, like a flower opening at night. You are safe here. The comets are far away. The universe is vast and patient, and we have all the time we need to drift deeper into the story. So rest, dear listener. The journey has only just begun. What if something is trying to destroy Swan and 3, I divided by Atlas before they reach us? It is a question that, on the surface, seems almost absurd. How could a rock, a fragment of ice, a drifting visitor with no intention and no destination become the target of resistance? And yet the very absurdity of the thought is what makes it worth exploring. For when you ask such a question, you are not only asking about comets, you are asking about life, about chance, about whether the universe welcomes or resists the seeds of creation. Picture it. The cosmos is vast beyond measure, a silent ocean stretching farther than imagination can hold. Within it, comets wander like bottles tossed into the surf, each carrying a message, chemicals, ice, dust, pieces of stories older than Earth itself. For billions of years, some of these bottles have drifted close to planets, and sometimes, just sometimes, they have cracked open and spilled their contents. Out of those spilled letters, life may have arisen. Molecules became chains, chains became patterns, patterns became cells, and cells began the long unfolding that led to us. If comets are messengers, then the arrival of Swan and 3, I divided by Atlas, should feel like an event of wonder. But what if, instead of being welcomed, their message is intercepted? What if the universe is not a passive stage, but a guarded one? The question lingers because it touches something primal in us. We know what it feels like to be blocked, to be on the verge of receiving something important, an opportunity, a revelation, a gift, only to have it snatched away. That interruption becomes its own kind of message. You are not ready, or you are not meant to receive this yet. Could that same principle extend to the universe itself? Could comets, these fragile seeds, be part of a system in which some forces nurture and others oppose? Science would remind us that comets break apart all the time. Their icy hearts fracture as they near the Sunday. Solar radiation tears at them. Gravity from planets pulls them off course. The cosmos is not gentle. It is a place where destruction is the norm and survival is rare. From that perspective, there is no intention, only physics. The shattering of Swan or Atlas would be no more purposeful than a wave breaking against a rock. But philosophy whispers differently. It asks, if we see patterns of interference, if destruction happens not just occasionally but persistently, could it be more than chance? Could it be the universe's way of controlling its own story, of limiting the spread of life so that not every world blooms too easily? Imagine for a moment that life is rare not only because the conditions are demanding, but because the pathways that carry those conditions are sometimes blocked. Comets may be couriers, but what if the roads they travel are patrolled? The idea is strange, yet strangely resonant. For in myth after myth, there are guardians, gods at gates, dragons at thresholds, spirits at rivers. Always, the passage from one world to another is watched. Why should we not imagine that the same could be true for the cosmos? Now pause, take another breath. Let that thought rest in your chest like a pebble dropped into water, rippling outward. The ripples are not conclusions, they are invitations. Because here's the truth. We do not know. We cannot know. Not yet. But in asking, we give ourselves permission to feel the mystery again. We live in a time when many answers seem only a search away, tucked into screens and databases. But some questions defy that quick satisfaction. They ask us not for certainty, but for wonder. So, let us wonder. What if Swan and Three Eye divided by Atlas carry something precious? What if their destruction is not accidental? Could the universe itself, in some slow, silent way, be choosing what messages are delivered and which are lost? It does not have to mean malice. Perhaps the universe guards its secrets, the way a garden guards its seeds. Not every seed is meant to sprout. Some are eaten, some are buried, some drift too far and wither, and yet the few that do find fertile ground become forests, jungles, worlds. If you are listening now, resting in the dark, notice how this question shifts the feeling of the night sky. Instead of a blank dome, it becomes a story, alive with intentions we may never fully understand. The stars are not only points of light, but silent witnesses. The comets are not only ice, but couriers. And between them, perhaps, there is conflict unseen, unheard, but deeply real. Does it frighten you, or does it soothe you to think that our place in the cosmos is part of a larger drama, that we are not simply floating in indifference, but participating in a story, even if we do not know the script? Think of your own life. How many times have you waited for something only to have it vanish before arrival? A letter that never came, a chance that dissolved, a relationship that ended before it began. In those moments, you may have asked, why? Was it fate, coincidence, or something unseen, nudging the story in another direction? The comets are no different. Their destruction would be a cosmic echo of the same theme. Not everything is meant to arrive. And yet, here is the paradox. Even if something is trying to destroy them, even if the universe is not neutral, the very act of asking this question changes us. It shifts our perspective. It makes us notice the fragility of opportunity, the impermanence of arrivals, the rarity of survival. It teaches us that beauty often lies not in permanence, but in the fleeting, the almost, the nearly lost. So, tonight, as you let this question sink into your imagination, allow yourself to linger in its strangeness. Do not rush to dismiss it as impossible or accept it as truth. Let it hover, the way comets hover in the dark, suspended between stars. Their tails trail like whispers, their cores glow like embers, and their fate, arrival or destruction, remains unknown. That is enough for now, to hold the question gently, to rest with it, to let it guide us deeper into the mystery. Because whether or not something is trying to destroy Swan and 3I divided by Atlas, the fact that we wonder says something about us. It says we are creatures who see meaning in silence, who turn chance into story, who are never content with surface explanations. And that, too, is a kind of message, one written not in ice and dust, but in curiosity itself. So take another breath. Let your body sink deeper into the surface beneath you. The question will stay with us as we move forward. We will not answer it tonight. We will only walk with it, slowly, step by step, as comets cross the night sky. And in the next chapter, we will ask not only why something might try to destroy them, but also what Swan and 3I divided by Atlas really are, what secrets they carry, and why those secrets matter to us at all. For now, rest with the question. What if something is trying to destroy them before they reach us? What if? Before we go any further, let me pause and turn gently toward you. Yes, you, the one listening right now, in your own place, at your own moment in time. Where are you as these words find you? Maybe you are lying in bed, wrapped in a blanket, the glow of a lamp or a screen fading slowly into the corners of the room. Maybe you are on a late train, the rhythm of wheels on the track blending with the rhythm of your breathing. Or perhaps it's not night at all. Perhaps you're listening during the day, when the sun is high. And yet you've chosen to step into this quiet space, this pocket of stillness, carved out from the noise of everything else. Wherever you are, I want you to notice something simple. We are here together, not in the same room, not in the same city, or even the same continent. Yet somehow, across distance and across time, a voice and an idea are enough to connect us. The comets we speak of are millions of kilometers away, but already they have brought you and me to the same moment. That is its own kind of wonder, isn't it? Now, let yourself settle a little deeper. Adjust your body if you need to. Find the position that feels most natural, most restful. Let your head rest against the pillow, or your back sink into the chair. The earth itself is holding you, quietly, without asking anything in return. And as you relax, notice how curiosity itself can be a companion. We often think of questions as things to be answered, but sometimes the question is enough. A question is a lantern. It casts just enough glow to keep you company in the dark, without demanding that you see the entire path ahead. Tonight, the lantern is this. What if something is trying to destroy Swan and 3I divided by Atlas before they reach us? It's not an answer we seek. It's the company of the wondering. And if that company feels soothing, if the pace feels right, if the thought itself gives you a sense of companionship while the world grows quieter around you, then I'll ask something small, something soft. Would you consider giving this video a like, or perhaps subscribing, so that this little space of calm can continue? There is no pressure, no demand, only an invitation, the way the night sky invites you to look up without insisting that you count every star. When you press like, or when you subscribe, you are not just helping me. You are helping others, strangers you'll never meet, to find this same quiet corner. Someone else, restless and sleepless, might stumble here one day because of you, and in that way, we weave a network of calm, a constellation of listeners stretched across the planet. So if the thought feels gentle enough, if the space feels like a place worth keeping, I'd be grateful if you did. And if you don't, that's all right too. You are welcome here regardless, simply as you are. The comets don't ask for permission to drift across the sky. They don't keep score of who noticed and who didn't. They pass, glowing, silent, brief. And so too does this invitation. Let's return to you for a moment. Notice the rhythm of your own breathing again, the way your chest rises and falls, the way air moves in and out without effort. You are part of a cycle older than memory, as old as oceans, as old as wind. The same elements that swirl through comets flow also through you. The oxygen in your lungs was shaped by stars. The carbon in your body was forged in firestorms of creation. You and Swan and 3I, divided by Atlas, are not separate stories. You are chapters of the same book. And in that sense, when we wonder whether something might try to destroy them, we are also wondering about ourselves. We are asking whether our own journeys, our fragile, temporary lives are welcomed by the universe, or resisted, or simply carried along by chance. Let me ask you something simple. How do you feel right now? Not in words, not in thoughts, but in sensation. Do you feel the weight of your body, the warmth of the blanket, or the chair, or the air around you? Do you hear the faintest background noises, the hum of electricity, the murmur of distant traffic, or maybe just silence? All of these are real, and yet here, within this moment, you are listening not only to those things, but also to a voice speaking of comets far away. That's the beauty of attention. It lets us travel without moving, and perhaps, if you're comfortable, you might share in the comments below where you are listening from, not as data, not as obligation, but as a way of letting this constellation grow brighter. When you write, "I'm listening from Cairo at midnight," or "from Paris in the afternoon," or "from Manila as I prepare to sleep," you are adding a star to this constellation. You are reminding others that they are not alone, that this quiet curiosity belongs to a wide and scattered family of listeners. Sometimes we underestimate how powerful that is. To know that, right now, as you lie in your bed or sit in your chair, someone else across the ocean is also lying down, also listening, also breathing slowly to the same words. That is connection. That is wonder. And it mirrors what comets do. They connect distances. They carry pieces of one place to another. They bridge the unimaginable gap between stars. Perhaps they too form constellations of connection, not in light, but in the invisible thread of stories they carry. So as we move forward in this journey tonight, let's hold on to that. The comets are not just out there, beyond reach. They are also in here, in our thoughts, in the way they gather us into the same question. Take one more breath. Slow, easy, effortless. Let the shoulders loosen again. Let the jaw unclench. Let the eyes grow heavy, if they wish. There is nothing to do but listen. The story will keep unfolding, one quiet step at a time. And if you've chosen to linger with me, with Swan and 3, I divided by Atlas, then I am grateful for your company. In the chapters ahead, we'll zoom outward. We'll set these comets against the backdrop of deep time and cosmic scale, so that we can understand just how small, and yet how meaningful, their brief passage may be. But for now, remember this: you are part of the story already. By listening, by wondering, by breathing slowly in the quiet of your own moment, you've joined the constellation. And maybe that's the real message comets bring, that even across impossible distances, even across silence and time, connection is always possible. Before we can truly think about Swan and 3, I divided by Atlas. Before we can ask whether something might be resisting them, we need to take a step back. Not just a small step, but a step so enormous that the ground of our ordinary lives vanishes behind us. Tonight, let's stretch our vision into what scientists call deep time and the vastness of cosmic space. Because only then can we understand what it means for a comet to exist at all. Close your eyes for a moment, if that feels comfortable. Picture a clock, not the one ticking on your wall, but a cosmic clock. Its hand sweeps not in seconds or minutes, but in billions of years. With each slow movement of that hand, galaxies swirl, stars ignite, planets are born, and sometimes comets are flung outward like sparks from a fire. The Earth itself is about 4.5 billion years old. To us, that number is nearly incomprehensible. Our own lives are measured in decades, a century at best. The rise and fall of civilizations span only a few thousand years, and yet Earth has been here for 4.5 billion. Imagine trying to hold that number in your mind. It's like trying to grasp the ocean with your bare hands. No matter how you cup them, most of it spills away. And then, zoom outward again. The Milky Way galaxy is roughly 13 billion years old. That is nearly 3 times older than Earth itself. Within its spirals, hundreds of billions of stars burn, each with its own retinue of planets, moons, asteroids, and comets. The distances between them are so vast that light, the fastest traveler we know, takes thousands of years to move from one star to another. Now, add to that the possibility that comets like SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas are not even from here, they are interstellar. They were born not in the nursery of our sun, but in another star system, maybe one long gone, maybe one still burning on the far side of the galaxy. For millions, perhaps billions of years, they have wandered, pulled, and pushed by gravitational tides we can barely imagine, until they arrived here, passing through our cosmic neighborhood like strangers carrying foreign letters. When you place them against this backdrop, something becomes clear. Their fragility, the fact that they might shatter, that they might vanish before reaching us, is not unusual. It is the rule. In a universe where time is measured in billions of years, everything fragile seems destined to break. And yet, some things do not. Some things survive, and in their survival, they deliver. Think of life itself. Against the crushing scale of time and chance, life should not have persisted. Planets are bombarded by asteroids, atmospheres are stripped away, stars flare and die. And yet, here we are, listening together. That is the miracle hidden inside deep time. Not that destruction is rare, but that survival is possible at all. If we linger here long enough, the imagination begins to soften. We start to realize how small our questions are compared to the stage they sit on. The universe is not a room. It is not even a city or a country. It is more like an ocean with no shore, filled with currents we will never fully chart. Comets like SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas are not exceptions. They are reminders. They remind us that movement across such distances is possible, that even fragile things can endure journeys beyond measure. And yet, in this immensity, the thought of resistance becomes even stranger. What would it mean for something to oppose a comet's arrival in a universe this large? Could it be chance, dressed up as intention? Or is it possible that within the rules of deep time and cosmic space, there are patterns, forces that act like guardians, ensuring that not every seed of life is scattered too freely? Ancient myths often hinted at this without knowing. In nearly every culture, there are stories of gates, thresholds, trials. Heroes could not simply step into the next world. They had to earn it. They faced monsters, riddles, or gods. Passage was never free. Perhaps, in a cosmic sense, comets face their own thresholds. Their trial is not whether they can exist, but whether they can endure the journey long enough to arrive. And so here is the paradox. Deep time humbles us, but it also comforts us. It shows us that our lives, fleeting as they are cradled inside a story much larger. The destruction of a comet is not the end of the story. It is one small note in a symphony playing across billions of years. Still, the question remains. If SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas are destroyed before they reach us, what then? Would it matter? Would the universe notice? Would we? Pause here. Take another slow breath. Inhale, exhale. Notice how your own life is both fleeting and vast at once. Fleeting, because each day slips away like water through the fingers. Vast, because you, too, are part of this cosmic timeline. The atoms in your body were forged in stars older than Earth. You are already ancient, already eternal in that sense. And so when we wonder about comets, we are also wondering about ourselves. Fragile travelers across an ocean too wide to measure, carrying within us something precious, hoping to arrive intact. Deep time tells us this. Everything fragile is always at risk. But some fragile things survive. And when they do, they change everything. Think of the moment, billions of years ago, when a comet may have struck Earth, and delivered the first organic molecules into its oceans. Most comets of that age shattered in silence, but a few survived long enough to arrive, and in their arrival, life began. Without those rare survivors, you and I would not be here to wonder at all. So perhaps that is the true backdrop for SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas. Not only the possibility of destruction, but the reminder that survival, however rare, is never impossible. And as we move forward in our story tonight, we will carry this scale with us, the scale of deep time, where billions of years pass like a sigh, the scale of cosmic space, where distances are so vast that even light seems slow. This is the canvas upon which our comets drift, fragile sparks against a darkness too wide to measure. Let that image stay with you as you rest. Imagine yourself floating in that darkness, not lost, but part of it. Imagine SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas moving slowly, tails streaming, fragile yet luminous, carrying their secrets toward us. And imagine the question hovering just behind them. Will they arrive, or will something stop them first? We don't know yet, but in deep time, in cosmic space, the question itself is enough. By now, you've heard their names more than once. SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas. Strange names, almost mechanical, like the labels of machines or satellites. Yet behind those acronyms lie stories of discovery, chance, and mystery. To understand why they matter, and why their possible destruction feels so haunting, we must first ask the simplest question: what are they? Comets are, at first glance, nothing more than dirty snowballs. That's how astronomers sometimes describe them: mixtures of ice, rock, and dust, bound together loosely, fragile in structure. Unlike planets, which are massive and stable, comets are temporary visitors. They pass through, display their glowing tails, and then fade into the dark again. Some are trapped in loops around the sun, returning every few years or centuries. Others appear once and never return, cast out on orbits so wide they escape forever. But SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas are different. They are not from here, they are interstellar. That word alone should make you pause. Interstellar, between the stars. Most comets we know belong to our solar system. They come from the Kuiper belt or the Oort cloud, icy reservoirs at the edge of the sun's influence. But interstellar comets are wanderers from other systems. They were born in the disks of dust and gas around alien stars, and for reasons we may never know, they were thrown out, flung across the galaxy, on journeys without return. In 2017, the first of these was discovered, a strange, elongated object named Oumuamua, Hawaiian for scout or messenger. It was not a comet in the traditional sense. It had no glowing tail, no halo of ice, but its trajectory proved it was not bound to the Sunday. It had come from elsewhere. And then, in 2019, another was spotted. 2I divided by Borisov, an unmistakable comet with a long, bright tail, clearly interstellar. And now, in our time, two more wanderers have been whispered about, SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas. The name SWAN comes from the instrument that first detected it, the Solar Wind Anisotropies camera, aboard a spacecraft observing the heavens. Its job is to monitor solar particles, but in its data, a faint glow appeared. That glow belonged to a comet. What made it extraordinary was not just its brightness, but its path. Like Oumuamua and Borisov, it came from beyond. An interstellar traveler, slipping into our field of vision for a brief moment. And then there is 3I divided by Atlas. The 3I, in its name, marks it as the third, officially recognized interstellar object, I for interstellar. The Atlas refers to the system that found it, the asteroid terrestrial. Impact Last Alert System, a survey designed to spot dangerous objects that might threaten Earth. Instead of an asteroid, it caught sight of something stranger, another wanderer, carrying the frozen dust of some faraway birthplace. Imagine them for a moment, not as numbers, but as beings. Swan, glowing faintly as the sun's light ignites its icy surface, trailing a fragile plume like a sigh across the void. 3I divided by Atlas, dim but steady, its path cutting through the solar system at an angle no planet could match. Neither belongs to us, yet both pass close enough for us to notice, to record, to wonder. And this is where the mystery deepens. Because interstellar comets are not common. We have eyes on the sky every night, telescopes scanning tirelessly, and yet only a handful have ever been spotted. That means for every one we catch, countless others pass unseen, their secrets locked away. Each one that appears is rare, precious, like a letter drifting into our mailbox from a stranger across the galaxy. What do they carry? At the simplest level, they carry ice, dust, carbon compounds. But those simple ingredients are not trivial. They are the alphabet of life. On Earth, long ago, comets may have delivered amino acids and other organic molecules into the young oceans. Those molecules combined, folded, and sparked the first fragile beginnings of biology. Without comets, life here might have taken a different path or never arisen at all. So when we see SWAN or 3I divided by Atlas, we are not only seeing frozen stones, we are seeing possibility. They may carry within them the same seeds that once woke our planet into life. Seeds that, if delivered elsewhere, could wake another world. Pause there. Let that thought settle as you lie in the quiet. Imagine one of these comets drifting past Earth, not striking, not threatening, but close enough for us to study. Imagine spacecraft sent out to touch it, to scoop its dust, to taste the chemistry of another star system. In that dust might be molecules older than Earth, fragments of stories that began billions of years before our planet was even born. And now, bring back the darker possibility. If something is trying to destroy them, what does that mean? Does it mean those stories are too dangerous to be shared? Does it mean that the seeds of life are not meant to scatter freely? Or is it simply that fragility is their nature, and their destruction is not a plan but an inevitability? Science offers the cautious answer. Comets are fragile. The closer they come to stars, the more they break. SWAN itself, when first discovered, seemed bright. But soon reports followed of its possible disintegration. Many comets die this way, fading before they are fully seen. But philosophy offers a different frame, that even in their dying, they deliver meaning. A comet that breaks apart, still scatters dust, still writes its story in the sky, still reminds us of how temporary, how delicate, how miraculous survival can be. And so SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas are not just objects of study, they are symbols, they are metaphors for opportunity, for messages, for arrivals that may never fully come. They are, in their brief glowing lives, companions for our questions. When you whisper their names, SWAN, Atlas, you are speaking not only of ice and dust, but of memory, chance, and wonder. They are like candles flickering in the vast cathedral of space. The wind may snuff them out, or they may burn just long enough to leave their light on our walls. Either way, their presence changes the room. So now, as you rest, hold this image in your mind. Two fragile travelers, born of other suns, carrying frozen whispers of beginnings. They are not ours, and yet, for a moment, they belong to us because we see them. Tomorrow, they may be gone, but tonight, their story continues. And in the next chapter, we will turn from the science to the myth, from what we can measure to what we have always imagined. We will ask why comets have haunted the human mind for so long, and why their possible destruction feels not only like science, but like prophecy. For now, let the names echo softly: SWAN, Atlas, messengers across the dark. For as long as humans have lifted their eyes to the sky, comets have been among the most mysterious and unsettling of sights. Stars were steady, Planets moved predictably. The moon waxed and waned. But comets were wild. They appeared suddenly, glowing trails scrawled across the heavens, and then vanished again, often for centuries. To ancient eyes, they looked less like objects and more like signs. Imagine a shepherd thousands of years ago, lying on a hillside at night. The sky above is clear, familiar, full of constellations that guided travel and time. And then, one evening, a fiery smear appears among the stars. It grows brighter, stretches longer, then fades. To that shepherd, it could not be random. It had to mean something. And so the myths began. In ancient China, comets were called broom stars. They were thought to sweep away the old, clearing the stage for upheaval. Records of comets stretch back thousands of years in Chinese chronicles, often linked with political unrest, famine, or the fall of dynasties. The sudden streak in the heavens was not just light, it was a celestial warning. In medieval Europe, comets were seen as omens of doom. The Bayeux Tapestry, that long-embroidered record of the Norman conquest of England in 1066, shows not only soldiers and kings, but also a comet, Halley's Comet, blazing in the sky, interpreted as a sign of great change. Priests and poets alike warned that comets foretold death, plague, or divine punishment. Among the Maya and Aztec, comets were associated with gods, warfare, and cosmic cycles. They were not random, but woven into the grand rhythms of time and sacrifice. A comet's appearance could trigger rituals, offerings, or even wars meant to appease the heavens. And yet, not all cultures saw them only as threats. In some traditions, comets were messengers, bringers of light, harbingers of renewal. In parts of Polynesia, comets were thought of as navigators, guiding spirits across the sky. In some Hindu texts, they were linked to divine weapons, terrifying, yes, but also instruments of cosmic justice. Even the word comet comes from the Greek kometes, meaning long-haired. To the Greeks, the glowing tails looked like the hair of gods streaming across the sky. For them, as for so many others, comets blurred the line between the ordinary and the divine. Why did comets inspire so much fear and reverence? Perhaps because they broke the rules. The heavens were supposed to be perfect, ordered, reliable. When something wild appeared, when the sky itself seemed to change, it felt like the universe was speaking directly to us. And when the universe speaks, humans listen, even if we do not understand the language. Think of how it must have felt to live in a world without science, without telescopes, without the knowledge that comets are simply ice and dust. The sky was a book, and every change in it was a sentence. To ignore it would have been unthinkable. Even now, though we know more, the old feelings linger. When a bright comet appears, people still gather outside, gazing upward, whispering. There is still a hush in the air, a feeling that something rare is happening, something that brushes against both fear and wonder. Now, bring this back to Swan and 3i divided by Atlas. If ancient people had seen them, they would not have called them comets from another star. They would have called them omens, foreign messengers, strange intruders. And if those comets were destroyed before arrival, perhaps the story would have been the same, that some unseen power had erased them to protect or punish the world. Pause and let that image settle in your mind. Two messengers streaking across the heavens, carrying secrets from beyond, only to be broken apart before their message could be read. It sounds like myth already, doesn't it? Like a story told around a fire, half warning, half wonder. But here is the gentle truth. Myths are not simply falsehoods. They are ways of holding on to feelings too large for facts alone. The fear of comets, the awe, the sense that they mean something, all of that was real, even if the explanations were not. Myths preserved those feelings, gave them shape, passed them down. Science, of course, explains comets differently. But science does not erase the feelings. When Swan was spotted, astronomers recorded data, plotted orbits, measured brightness. And yet, across the internet, Ordinary people shared photos with words like beautiful, haunting, unreal. The language was not so different from the language of ancient myths. Perhaps that is what comets do best. They remind us that knowledge and wonder are not enemies. You can know the chemistry of a comet's ice and still feel your heart race when you see its tail blaze across the night sky. You can calculate its orbit precisely and still whisper that it feels like a message. So when we ask whether something is trying to destroy SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas, we are not only asking a scientific question, we are touching an older layer of ourselves. We are asking, if the universe speaks through comets, could it also silence them? If they are messengers, could there be guardians who decide which messages reach us and which do not? This is the rhythm of myth, to see in every celestial event not just physics, but story, to weave meaning into silence. And though we may smile at the fears of ancient people, perhaps we are not so different. We too seek meaning in the unpredictable. We too read the sky like a book. Take another breath. Notice how your body feels now, maybe softer, heavier, more at ease. Myths, like comets, are meant to be carried gently. They do not demand belief. They invite imagination. And so, as we drift further tonight, let us carry both. The science that explains and the myth that enchants. Together, they make the comet richer. Together, they make the story of SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas more than data. They make them symbols fragile, fleeting, yet full of meaning. In the next part, we will step back into science again, looking more closely at what comets are made of and why those humble ingredients, dust, ice, molecules, matter so much. For hidden in their simplicity lies the possibility of life itself. But for now, let the myths linger, like a faint glow in your imagination. Comets as brooms, as omens, as messengers, as weapons. Comets as signs that the universe has something to say. And maybe, just maybe, SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas are trying to say something too. If myths painted comets as omens and messengers, science gives us another way to see them no less wondrous, only different in its details. Where ancient poets saw flaming swords, astronomers see fragile archives. Where kings feared disaster, scientists glimpse possibility. Tonight, let us wander slowly into the science of comets, not with rushing facts, but with a gentle curiosity. At their heart, comets are simple things: dust, ice, gas. Three ingredients that seem unremarkable, yet together form some of the most evocative objects in the universe. Their cores, called nuclei, are often only a few kilometers across. Imagine a mountain of frozen material, porous, brittle, held together not by strength but by cold. If you could hold a piece of it in your hand, it might crumble like powdery snow mixed with ash. And yet, inside that fragile shell lies something extraordinary. For comets preserve, almost perfectly, the conditions of the early universe. When planets formed billions of years ago, much of the material was melted, crushed, or reshaped. But comets, small and distant, escaped that violence. They remained in the cold, unchanged, storing within their ices the chemistry of origins. What chemistry? Carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, the same elements that make up you and me. In the 20th and 21st centuries, spacecraft studying comets found amino acids, the building blocks of proteins embedded in their dust. Other molecules, complex and surprising, also appeared: sugars, alcohols, compounds that hint at life's alphabet. These discoveries gave weight to an old idea that comets may have seeded Earth with the ingredients of biology. Think of that for a moment. The water in your body, about 60% of you, is linked to cosmic ice. The carbon in your cells may once have drifted through interstellar space inside a comet, like SWAN or 3I divided by Atlas. When you breathe, when you move, when you dream, you are enacting chemistry that comets carried billions of years before you were born. It is humbling, and it is beautiful. Scientists call this idea panspermia, the hypothesis that life, or at least its raw materials, travel across the cosmos by hitching rides on comets and asteroids. Not life as in tiny aliens frozen in the ice, but life as in potential, molecules, recipes, seeds. Earth, in this view, did not invent life alone. It was visited, gifted, sprinkled with possibility from above. That is why comets fascinate researchers so deeply. Every time we catch one, we catch a time capsule. When the European Space Agency's Rosetta spacecraft landed its small probe, Philae, on Comet 67P in 2014, it was as if humanity reached out and touched its own childhood. The instruments sniffed the gases, tasted the dust, and found again those familiar molecules, proof that comets are more than icy debris. They are archives of possibility. Now return to SWAN and 3, I divided by Atlas. These are not just ordinary comets from our solar system. They are interstellar, which means their chemistry may not only preserve the story of our own sun, but the story of other stars, other systems, other beginnings. If life is seeded by comets, then SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas could be carrying recipes from kitchens we have never seen. Imagine tasting dust from a star system 500 light-years away, or 1,000 or more. The thought alone is dizzying, and yet science reminds us they are fragile. Their ice sublimates turns directly from solid to gas when sunlight touches them. Their structures crack under stress. Many comets never survive their approach to stars. They break apart, leaving only clouds of dust. Still, even destruction has meaning. A broken comet spreads its materials into space, scattering molecules where they might one day find a new home. In that way, even a destroyed comet succeeds. Its death is also a delivery. Pause here. Notice how even the scientific description begins to sound like poetry. Dust, ice, gas, seeds, gifts, archives. Science does not kill wonder, it deepens it. When you learn that amino acids hide in cometary ice, you do not feel less awe, you feel more. You realize that life itself is stitched into the fabric of the cosmos, and comets are its seamstresses. Now, imagine SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas passing near Earth, close enough for telescopes to study. Instruments could measure their light, split it into spectra, and reveal the fingerprints of molecules. Perhaps they would show something familiar: water, methane, carbon dioxide, or perhaps something new, something we have never seen, a molecule rare or unique, hinting at biochemistry that evolved elsewhere. That is the promise of comets, that in their icy silence, they whisper secrets we have not yet learned to translate. And so the fear of their destruction grows sharper, not because they threaten us, but because they might carry knowledge we could lose forever. If they disintegrate unseen, if they scatter before we touch them, we may never know what they carried. The letter will remain unread, the message lost. Think of how that mirrors our own lives. Each person, too, is fragile, temporary, carrying within them a set of stories, experiences, and insights that exist only once. If they are not shared, they vanish. Like comets, we are archives, waiting to be noticed, hoping to arrive before we are gone. This is why comets matter not just scientifically, but symbolically. They remind us of fragility, of impermanence, and of the astonishing possibility hidden inside the simplest things. So tonight, as you rest, picture SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas again. Not just icy rocks, but fragile messengers. Imagine their cores glowing faintly, tails trailing like silver threads, carrying molecules that may have sparked countless worlds into life. And imagine the question lingering behind them: will they reach us, or will something erase their message before we can read it? In the next part, we will lean back into philosophy again, exploring the possibility that if comets are messengers, then something or someone may be intercepting those messages. But for now, let science sit gently in your mind. Comets are not only omens, they are laboratories, they are seeds. They are the alphabet of existence, drifting silently across the dark. And as you breathe, slowly and calmly, you are breathing the same atoms comets carry. You are part of their story, and they are part of yours. What if the universe is not silent? What if, instead of being a neutral stage where comets drift freely, it is a guarded space, a place where not every message is meant to arrive? It's a provocative thought, one that edges closer to philosophy than physics. Yet as we lie here together, drifting gently in curiosity, it is worth asking, could there be forces not accidental, but deliberate that try to intercept comets like SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas before they ever reach us? Pause for a moment. Feel what that question stirs in you. Does it feel like myth? Like the whisper of an old story? Or does it feel oddly plausible, as though somewhere in the logic of the universe, resistance might be built in? In science, destruction is normal. Comets disintegrate, planets are bombarded, stars explode. Nothing is permanent. And yet, the rhythm of survival life arising against all odds suggests that destruction and survival are not random enemies. They are partners in a strange dance. Too much destruction, and nothing grows. Too much survival, and nothing changes. Balance is the law. So imagine for a moment that this balance is not just blind chance, but a kind of cosmic editing, as though the universe itself is curating which stories are allowed to unfold, which seeds of life are allowed to germinate, which comets are permitted to deliver their messages. Could it be that some unseen filter, some interference, decides that not every messenger may pass? Ancient myth gave names to such interference: gatekeepers, dragons, gods of thresholds. In almost every tradition, there is the idea of something standing between worlds. You cannot simply step from earth to heaven, or from life to death. You must pass a guardian. You must prove yourself. Perhaps comets, too, face guardians on their journeys. But if that is true, what form could such guardians take? One possibility is natural, but no less mysterious. Cosmic rays, solar winds, magnetic storms, forces invisible to us, but powerful enough to strip or shatter fragile comets. Perhaps these are the hands of the universe, brushing away some messengers while allowing others through. From this view, the interference is not conscious. It is simply the way the universe maintains its balance. Another possibility is stranger. Suppose there is intelligence woven into the cosmos, not as a person or a god, but as a pattern, a mind at a scale we cannot grasp. To such a mind, comets might be variables in a grand experiment, seeds to be planted carefully, selectively. Some worlds may be chosen to bloom, others not. Some messages may be allowed to arrive, others intercepted. If Earth received its seeds long ago, perhaps that was no accident. Perhaps it was a decision. And then comes the most unsettling possibility of all, that other beings, alien civilizations older than ours, might play this role. If they exist, perhaps they monitor the scattering of life, deciding when and where it spreads. If comets like SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas carry potential seeds, perhaps those seeds are sometimes stopped, broken, erased, before they can fall into hands not yet ready. Does that sound like science fiction? Maybe. But notice how your mind leans toward the idea, even if only briefly. Notice how the thought shifts the sky above you. Instead of empty space, it becomes a space alive with intention, with hidden actors. The comets are no longer just wanderers, they are couriers trying to slip past an invisible blockade. Whether you find this frightening or fascinating, hold the feeling lightly. Do not rush to choose. This is not about belief. It is about wonder. Think of your own life. Have there been times when it felt as though something interfered, an unseen hand delaying your plans, altering your path, preventing something from reaching you? Perhaps a job you wanted but didn't get, a meeting that never happened, a chance that dissolved. In the moment, it felt like failure. But later, looking back, you realized that the interference shaped you in ways you could not have imagined. What if the universe does this on a grander scale? What if comets are intercepted not out of malice, but out of purpose to shape the unfolding of life, to test resilience, to slow or redirect the spreading of seeds until the timing is right? From another angle, interference might be less purposeful and more like weather. Just as storms scatter seeds on Earth, cosmic weather scatters comets. Some seeds land, some do not. From this perspective, there is no malice, no intention, only the rhythm of chance. Yet even chance feels strangely patterned when we step back far enough. Pause here again. Notice your breathing. Slow, gentle. Let the thought of cosmic interference move through you like wind through tall grass. You don't need to hold it tightly. Just notice how it feels. The idea that something could be trying to destroy SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas does not mean doom. It does not mean hostility. It may simply mean that the universe is more alive, more intentional than we expect. Instead of a silent stage, perhaps it is a conversation, and comets are the words. Some are spoken aloud. Some are swallowed before they reach the ear. And yet, here is the quiet wonder. We noticed them. SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas entered our awareness, however briefly. Even if they are destroyed, their names remain. Their stories ripple in our minds. That alone means the interference has not fully silenced them. They have spoken, at least in part, and we are listening. As you drift deeper into rest, let this thought linger. The universe may be vast, but it is not indifferent. Comets may be fragile, but even in their fragility, they carry meaning. And interference, whatever its source, does not erase wonder. It only deepens it, turning each comet into a question, each fragment into a story. In the next part, we will shift back to the personal, reflecting on how this cosmic idea of interference mirrors the interruptions in our own lives, and how sometimes what feels like loss may be another form of delivery. For now, close your eyes if they are not already closed. Breathe slowly. Imagine SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas gliding silently across the void. And imagine, too, the unseen forces that surround them, not enemies, not allies, simply presences. And wonder what if, when we imagine SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas, drifting through the cosmos, fragile and luminous, we cannot help but see ourselves reflected in them. Their journeys, their fragility, their possibility of being destroyed before arriving, these are not only cosmic stories, they are human stories too. Think of your own life. How many times have you felt that something was just about to reach you, an opportunity, a moment, a relationship, only for it to vanish? A door nearly opened, then shut. A message almost received, then lost. A plan carefully built, only to collapse at the last step. In those moments, it can feel as though some unseen force is interfering, as though the universe itself has reached down to scatter your plans, to redirect your path, to shatter your comet before it reaches its destination. Pause here. Take a breath. Let yourself recall one such moment, softly, without judgment. Perhaps it was a job you didn't get, a love that ended before it began, a dream that never quite came true. At the time, it hurt. It felt like destruction. But now, looking back, do you see something else? Do you see how that interference shaped you, redirected you, maybe even protected you? This is the metaphor of comets. SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas are not only icy travelers, they are mirrors for our journeys. We too are fragile, temporary, carrying within us something precious. And we too face forces, some obvious, some invisible, that shape whether our messages are delivered or lost. But here is the quiet gift. Even when a comet breaks apart, its dust still scatters. Its molecules still drift into space. Its story is not erased, it is rewritten. The same may be true for us. The opportunities that slip away, the plans that collapse, the dreams that shatter, they are not always endings. They are transformations. The dust of what we lose can still settle somewhere new, fertilizing futures we cannot yet see. Imagine this. A comet disintegrates before reaching Earth. From one perspective, it has failed. From another, it has succeeded differently. Its dust becomes part of the solar wind, drifting, scattering. Some of that dust may one day settle on another planet, another moon, perhaps even on Earth itself, in the form of faint meteor showers. Its message is not gone, it is simply delayed, translated into another language. Think of your own life in the same way. That job you didn't get? Perhaps it scattered into skills and lessons that later made you ready for something else. That relationship that ended? Perhaps it left behind dust memories, growth, empathy that shaped the person you became. Even losses leave traces, and those traces matter. So when we wonder whether something is trying to destroy Swan and 3i divided by Atlas, we are also asking, how do we interpret the interruptions in our own lives? Are they destruction, or are they transformation? Are they endings, or are they dust settling into new beginnings? Pause again. Notice your breath. Inhale gently. Exhale softly. Let the question drift through you without needing an answer. Because sometimes the meaning of interference is only visible in hindsight, just as comets carry dust that may only form life millions of years later. Our losses may only reveal their gifts years after the fact. The key is patience, the patience to let the dust settle, to trust that even broken things can still carry beauty forward. This reflection also reminds us of fragility. Swan and 3i divided by Atlas are fragile not because they are weak, but because they are real. They are not armored planets. They are not eternal stars. They are fleeting, delicate visitors. And so are we. Our fragility is not a flaw. It is a feature. It makes us precious. It makes every arrival, every connection, every survival something to cherish. Think of the people in your life. Each one is a comet. Each one carries a message, a story, a chemistry that exists only once. Some arrive fully, leaving deep impressions. Some pass briefly, flickering across your sky, and then vanish. Some break apart, leaving only dust. But all of them matter. All of them add to the constellation of who you are. And you, too, are a comet to others. Perhaps you have arrived fully for some. Perhaps you have passed briefly for others. Perhaps you have left dust that will settle into someone's future long after you are gone. Your journey is not measured only in what survives intact, but also in what scatters. So tonight, as you rest, let yourself feel comfort in this. You are not required to be permanent. You are not required to deliver every message whole. It is enough to travel, to shine briefly, to scatter dust that carries traces of you into the lives around you. The universe itself works this way. Stars explode, scattering heavy elements that later become planets and people. Comets break, scattering molecules that later become oceans and life. Interference is not always destruction. It is often the beginning of something else. Swan and 3i divided by Atlas remind us of this truth. Whether they survive or not, their presence already changes us. We have seen them. We have wondered about them. We have spoken their names. That is survival of another kind. Not physical, but symbolic. And so too with us. Even if our plans scatter, our stories continue in the memories, the connections, the traces we leave behind. As you drift deeper into relaxation, hold this gentle metaphor close. You are a comet. You carry within you a rare chemistry, a message written in the molecules of your being. You may not always arrive where you intend. You may sometimes break, sometimes scatter, but your dust will still fall, and in that falling, you will leave beauty behind. In the next part, we will shift again back to imagination. We will picture ourselves standing not on Earth, but on the threshold of orbit, watching comets from space, seeing with our own eyes how fragile and luminous they are. A thought experiment, yes, but also a meditation on perspective. For now, breathe deeply once more. Inhale, exhale. Imagine your own fragility, not as weakness, but as wonder. You are not permanent, but you are luminous. You are not invincible, but you are meaningful. And in that sense, you are just like Swan and three, I divided by Atlas brief travelers across a vast and silent sea, carrying seeds of something greater than yourself. Close your eyes, if you haven't already. Let's leave the earth behind for a while. Not forever, just for the length of a dream. Imagine yourself lifted gently upward, carried slowly through the air, higher and higher, past rooftops, past clouds, past the curve of the planet itself. The blue fades to black. The air thins, then vanishes. Stars appear, sharper and brighter than you've ever seen them. You are in orbit now, floating silently, weightless. Below you, Earth glows softly, its oceans reflecting moonlight, its continents faintly outlined by clusters of city lights. The atmosphere is a thin halo, a fragile film of blue wrapped around a living world. Above you, the sky is not really sky at all. It is space, vast and endless. And in that space, two faint streaks begin to appear. Swan and three, I divided by Atlas. From Earth, they might look like distant smudges, barely noticeable against the stars. But from orbit, from here, they are more vivid. Swan glimmers with a soft green hue, the kind of light you'd expect from a dream more than from an object. Three, I divided by Atlas, appears colder, paler, as though carved from frost itself. Both trail long, delicate tails, thin veils of dust and vapor streaming away, painting lines across the black canvas of space. They move slowly, not because they are slow, but because space is vast. Their journeys stretch across light years, and here, in orbit, you catch only a moment of their passing. Imagine standing at the window of a station, your hand pressed against the glass. You are weightless, silent, watching as these comets glide by. There is no sound, no rushing wind, no roar of engines, only stillness, only the quiet flicker of sunlight glancing off ice crystals in their tails. And then, imagine how fragile they look. They are not solid boulders. They are brittle, porous, shimmering, as though a touch would break them apart. You know they could vanish at any moment, splinter into fragments, dissolve into dust, and yet that fragility only makes them more beautiful. Like snowflakes drifting in sunlight, like paper lanterns floating on a river, they exist only briefly, and that briefness makes you want to hold on to the sight forever. But here's the haunting thought. What if, even now, something is watching them too, something unseen, waiting to erase them before they arrive? From your vantage point in orbit, you try to imagine what that interference might look like. Would it be violent, an impact, a sudden flare tearing them apart? Or would it be quiet, an invisible field, a subtle disruption, a hand you cannot see brushing them out of existence? It is impossible to know, and yet, as you watch, the possibility lingers, heavy but strangely calming, because interference, destruction, loss, these are not strangers. They are part of the rhythm of the cosmos. Stars explode, planets crumble, even comets fade. What matters is not permanence, but presence. Right now, they are here, and you are here, watching. That is enough. Take a slow breath. Inhale, exhale. Let the vision grow sharper in your mind. Picture yourself drifting closer, almost near enough to touch the icy surface of Swan. Imagine what it would look like: craters, cracks, a surface glittering faintly as sunlight strikes frozen gas. Each particle of ice is ancient, older than Earth, a record of chemistry that predates human memory. To stand here, to look at it, is to look at time itself, frozen into a fragile body. Now drift away toward 3, I divided by Atlas. Its surface is darker, rougher, flecked with dust, that glints like embers when caught by light. You realize this comet has been traveling for millions of years, perhaps billions. Entire civilizations could rise and fall on worlds across the galaxy in the time it has taken to reach this moment. And yet, here it is, gliding silently past your orbit, letting you glimpse its passage. The thought is humbling. It reminds you that your life, your worries, your struggles are small in scale but not meaningless. Just as the comet is small compared to galaxies, yet still matters because it carries potential, so too do you matter because you carry stories, connections, possibilities. Stay here a little longer. Let yourself float weightless, gazing at these fragile travelers. Notice the way their tails shimmer like threads of silk unraveling into infinity. Notice how the stars beyond them flicker through the dust, as though the universe itself is weaving patterns with light and shadow. And then, bring the image closer to your heart. The comets are not just distant wanderers, they are mirrors for your own journey. Just as they carry dust that may one day seed life, you carry within you seeds of kindness, of love, of imagination, that you scatter without even knowing, through words, through gestures, through presence. What if something tries to stop them? What if they are destroyed? From orbit, you realize that even if they break, their dust will keep traveling. Even if they vanish, their molecules will still scatter. Even in destruction, they continue, and so too with us. Our journeys may be fragile, our plans may fracture, but the essence of what we are, the dust of our being, scatters into others, into memory, into the future. The comets remind you, fragility does not erase meaning, it creates it. As you rest now, imagine slowly drifting back toward Earth, down through the thin blue halo, down through clouds, down to your bed, your room, your breath. Carry with you the vision of Swan and Three, I divided by Atlas, as you saw them from orbit, fragile, luminous, brief, but unforgettable. In the next part, we will step away from imagination and return to metaphor. We will ask, if comets are messengers, what is the message? And what does it mean if that message is lost before it ever reaches us? For now, close your eyes a little heavier. Breathe a little slower. Remember the comets gliding in silence, and remember yourself watching. Both are fleeting, both are beautiful, both are enough. Think of comets not as stones or ice, but as letters. Letters written in the handwriting of the cosmos, each one sealed long ago, stamped with chemistry older than Earth, and sent drifting through space like mail with no return address. They do not hurry. They do not expect to be read, but they travel, patient, carrying their messages for anyone who might one day open them. Now imagine this. A letter approaches, carried across unimaginable distance. It is nearly here, close enough for you to glimpse the envelope glimmering in the night sky. And just before it arrives, just before it slips into your hands, someone tears it apart. The letter is shredded, scattered. Its words dissolve into silence. That is the metaphor of Swan, and Three I divided by Atlas. They are letters that may never be read, carriers of stories that may never be opened. And when we ask whether something is trying to destroy them, what we are really asking is, why are some messages allowed to arrive while others are lost? Pause for a moment. Breathe in slowly. Hold the breath for a second. Exhale gently. Let that image of a torn letter settle into your mind. Perhaps you've felt this in your own life, waiting for a message that never came, hoping for words that were never spoken, preparing for news that dissolved into silence, a missed call, an unopened email, a conversation interrupted. In those moments, you, too, have known what it is to hold a letter that never arrives. And yet, even in their tearing, even in their lost, comets still leave traces. A broken comet scatters dust into the atmosphere. That dust, falling through our skies, becomes meteor showers, streaks of light, brief but breathtaking, drawing wishes from the hearts of those who see them. The message may be lost, but the fragments still speak. So the metaphor grows deeper. Even when a message is torn apart, it is not entirely gone. Its fragments ripple outward, reshaping lives in ways we may never trace. Think of the times when something you thought was lost still left you changed. A dream that failed, but left you with resilience. A relationship that ended, but left you with compassion. A chance that slipped away, but left you with a new path you hadn't considered. Those were torn letters, and yet their dust still fell. Swan and 3I divided by Atlas remind us of this. Their destruction would not be the erasure of meaning. It would be a translation, a rewriting, a reminder that even what seems broken can still carry beauty. Let's stretch the metaphor further. What if Earth itself is a library, and comets are the books delivered to its shelves? Some books arrive intact. Others arrive burned or torn, their pages missing. Yet even fragments can be read. Even a single surviving line can change the course of history. The comets that survive enrich our library. The comets that are destroyed leave only scraps, but scraps still matter. And here is the wonder. We too are letters. Each life is a message written in the fragile ink of time. Some of us are delivered fully, our stories read widely. Some of us are torn, scattered, forgotten. But all of us leave traces dust that falls into the skies of others, fragments that glow briefly before fading. No letter is ever truly lost. Now return to Swan and 3I divided by Atlas. Picture them again, drifting in the silence of space. Picture them not as comets, but as envelopes sealed billions of years ago, their words written in frozen chemistry. Inside them may be nothing special or everything, a recipe for life, or a note that simply says, I was here. Either way, their message matters. Either way, their journey is real. And so, when we ask whether something is trying to destroy them, the metaphor becomes heavier. For it means that someone or something may be tearing letters before they reach us, protecting us from messages we are not ready to read, or perhaps ensuring that some words remain unspoken. Does that thought frighten you, or does it comfort you? Perhaps both. To think that the universe might censor itself, choosing what to reveal and what to conceal. To think that even silence could be a kind of communication. Take another breath, slow, steady. Let your shoulders drop. You do not need to decide what you believe. The metaphor is enough. Because sometimes the letters that never arrive are as meaningful as the ones that do. Their absence shapes us. Their silence speaks. Just as the sight of a comet fading before it reaches its closest point can still move us, reminding us of fragility, of impermanence, of beauty lost. So tonight, hold this thought gently. Swan and 3I divided by Atlas are letters. They may be delivered, or they may be torn. Either way, their existence enriches us. Either way, their journey teaches us something. Either way, their dust will fall somewhere, carrying whispers of their message into the future. In the next part, we will widen the metaphor again. We will ask whether the universe itself might be a storyteller, scattering comets as words across its pages, some read, some erased, some only half remembered. But for now, let yourself rest with the image of the torn letter, fragile, fleeting, but still meaningful. Even in its loss, it leaves traces. Even in its silence, it speaks. What if the universe itself is a storyteller? Not in the way a human sits down to write with ink and paper, but in a slower, vaster, more mysterious sense. Imagine the cosmos not as a silent void, but as an endless book, its words scattered across galaxies, its sentences written in stars, and its punctuation shaped by comets. When you think of it this way, Swan and 3I divided by Atlas are no longer just icy wanderers. They are words flung into the darkness, parts of a sentence so long it takes billions of years to read. Each comet is a syllable, each planet a phrase, each galaxy a chapter. And here we are, small listeners, tracing the margins of a story so enormous we can only glimpse fragments at a time. Take a moment. Imagine yourself holding an open book. Its pages are not paper but sky. Its letters are not ink but constellations. The Milky Way itself is a paragraph across the night, and comets are commas brief, luminous, marking pauses in a sentence too vast to grasp. If this metaphor feels strange, remember how deeply humans are drawn to stories. Long before science, long before language was written, we told stories to explain the stars. We filled the darkness with characters, gods, beasts, and heroes. It was not foolishness. It was instinct, because to us, meaning matters, and the universe, silent though it seems, offers endless symbols to shape into narrative. Now, imagine comets as the storyteller's way of keeping the tale alive. They are not steady like stars, not constant like planets. They are rare visitors, surprising intrusions, moments of emphasis. When they streak across the sky, it feels as though the universe has underlined a sentence. Pay attention here, it seems to say. Something is happening. What if Swan and 3I divided by Atlas are part of such underlined sentences? What if they are chapters written not for all eyes, but for a few? Perhaps they were never meant to survive their journey fully. Perhaps their role was only to appear briefly, to remind us that we are inside a living story, not outside of it. Think of the universe as a vast library. Every supernova is an exclamation mark. Every black hole is a dark pause. Every comet is a marginal note, a whisper scribbled in frost and dust. Some notes are preserved, some are erased, some are never read, but all of them belong to the same text. Pause here. Inhale. Exhale. Let the thought of being inside a cosmic story relax you, because if the universe is a storyteller, then nothing is meaningless. Not even destruction. Not even silence. Perhaps that is why we feel so drawn to comets. They arrive like characters, unexpected, but unforgettable. They blaze for a moment, then vanish, leaving us with questions rather than answers. Good stories work this way too. They do not hand us everything neatly. They leave space for wondering, for interpretation, for imagination. Swan and 3I divided by Atlas are unfinished sentences. Maybe we will never read the final word. Maybe their endings will be torn away by interference, by fragility, by cosmic forces we cannot see. But unfinished sentences still carry power. They make us lean forward. They make us listen harder. They remind us that stories are alive, not static. Now think of your own life as a story the universe is writing. Each day, a page. Each choice, a word. Each relationship, a paragraph. Some chapters end suddenly. Some trails are left unfinished. Some letters are torn. But none of it is wasted. All of it belongs. Even the interruptions, even the blank spaces, even the silences, they too are part of the text. When you look back, you may notice patterns you did not see while living them, threads that repeat, motifs that return, a phrase whispered years ago that echoes again much later. This is storytelling at its deepest, meaning revealed in hindsight, connections that emerge only with time. So, if the universe is telling a story, what role do comets play? Perhaps they are reminders that the story is larger than us. Perhaps they are symbols of fragility, of possibility, of fleeting beauty. Perhaps they are punctuation moments when the story pauses, glows, and then moves on. Swan and 3I divided by Atlas are not the first such words, and they will not be the last. But because they are interstellar, because they come from beyond, they feel like foreign words, phrases borrowed from another book entirely. Imagine the thrill of finding such a word in a text you thought you knew. It does not fit, it does not belong, and yet it deepens the story, reminding you that the book you hold is part of a larger library. Even if they are destroyed, even if their sentences are cut short, their presence still changes the page. The torn note is still a note. The faded mark is still a mark. The silence after their absence is still part of the rhythm, So tonight, as you drift deeper, think of yourself not only as a listener, but as a character in this story. The comets are not distant actors. They are fellow words, scattered alongside you, part of the same text. You are both reader and written, both interpreter and interpreted. And when you wonder whether something is trying to destroy them, you are really wondering about the story's plot. Who are the unseen characters? What is the conflict? Where is the narrative heading? These are not questions of science alone. They are the questions we ask of every story we love. The universe has been telling its story for billions of years. Tonight, Swan and 3, I divided by Atlas, remind us that we are still listening, that the book is still open, that the words are still being written. In the next part, we will step into another imaginative space. We will look at comets not only as storytellers, but as gardeners scattering seeds across the galaxy, some sprouting, some failing, some erased. A new metaphor, but one that carries the same quiet truth. Fragility does not erase meaning, it multiplies it. For now, let yourself rest with this image. The universe is a book, infinite and luminous, its pages written in stars. And tonight, 2 comets glide across the margin, brief notes in frost and light. You may never read their full sentences, but you have seen them, and that is enough. Imagine the universe as a vast garden, not the kind you can walk through in an afternoon, not even one you can map. This garden is infinite, stretching across galaxies, filled with soils of stars, waters of nebulae, and seeds scattered across the blackness. In this garden, comets are the seeds. Swan and 3, I divided by Atlas, are only 2 of them, tiny, fragile, glimmering grains of possibility, drifting through the dark. They do not know where they are going. They do not choose their paths. Yet as they pass, they scatter what they carry. Ice, dust, molecules. To us, these are chemicals. To the universe, they are potential. Pause here, breathe slowly. Let yourself picture it. A cosmic gardener, invisible and silent, scattering seeds across the galaxies. Some fall on barren soil, dead planets with no air, no water, no warmth. Those seeds never sprout. Some fall into storms too violent, atmospheres too thick, or radiation too fierce. They are burned away. But some, just a few, land on fertile ground. Oceans waiting, climates balancing, elements aligning. And in those rare places, the seeds awaken. They unfold into molecules, into cells, into creatures, into us. From this view, comets are not just icy wanderers, they are gardeners' hands, flinging life's beginnings wherever they pass. They may never know what becomes of their seeds, but that does not matter. Their role is to scatter, to deliver, to trust that some will grow. Think of Earth. Billions of years ago, it was barren, molten rock cooling, oceans steaming, storms raging. And then, perhaps, a comet arrived. Maybe more than one. They carried amino acids, organic molecules, fragments of life's alphabet. They fell into oceans, into tide pools, into cracks in the stone. And there, in that fertile soil of water and minerals, the seeds took root. The story of life began. Without comets, Earth might have remained only rock and sea. With them, it bloomed into forests, oceans, creatures, humans. That is the power of seeds, small, fragile, but transformative. Now picture Swan and 3, I divided by Atlas again. Interstellar seeds. They come not from our garden, but from another. Their chemistry is not ours alone. They are foreign seeds, carrying recipes written under another Sunday. Imagine what might grow if their dust reached a fertile place. Imagine what kinds of life might bloom, different from ours, shaped by alien origins but sharing the same cosmic alphabet. And then, imagine the interference. What if some force is trying to prevent those seeds from scattering? What if some hands sweep them away before they can fall? Is it protection? Is it fear? Is it balance? We cannot know. But the metaphor of the garden deepens here. Not every gardener scatters recklessly. Some choose carefully where to plant. Some keep seeds hidden until the season is right. Perhaps the universe is not careless. Perhaps it, too, plants with intention. Perhaps the destruction of some comets is not random, but selective. Not every seed is meant to sprout. Not every garden bed is meant to bloom. Pause again. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Let that idea settle like soil around a seed. And now, turn inward. Think of your own life as a garden. You carry seeds too, seeds of kindness, of ideas, of creativity. Every word you speak scatters them. Some fall on fertile ground, someone hears your kindness and is changed. Some fall on hard ground, your efforts are ignored, your gifts unseen. But none of it is wasted. For every barren patch, there is fertile soil somewhere. Every seed you scatter adds to the garden of others. You, too, are a comet. You carry the dust of stars, and you scatter it as you go. Even if you never see what grows, something may bloom in a place you will never visit. That is the quiet miracle of being alive. Now return to Swan and 3. I divided by Atlas one more time. Imagine them drifting through the infinite garden of space. Behind them trail long, luminous tails, scattering molecules, like seeds. Some will vanish into the void. Some will burn in stars. But perhaps one particle, one tiny fragment, will land on a young planet, fertile and waiting. Perhaps millions of years from now, that fragment will awaken into life, a seed sprouting silently in alien soil. And if something tries to destroy them before they arrive, even then, seeds scatter. A broken comet is still a gardener. Its dust may spread wider, farther, reaching places it never could have otherwise. Sometimes destruction is only another form of planting. This is the comfort of the metaphor. Even what looks like failure may be success in disguise. Even what seems like loss may be scattering in a wider way. The gardener knows not every seed must sprout. It is enough that some do. So tonight, as you rest, think of yourself lying in a garden too large to see. Above you, comets pass like seeds. Around you, the air, the water, the earth, all of it is grown from ancient planting. Within you, your own seeds stir, waiting to be scattered. You are not separate from the cosmic garden. You are part of it, both soil and seed, both bloom and gardener. And tomorrow, when you rise, perhaps you will scatter something too, a word, a gesture, a kindness that falls where it is needed most. You may never see what grows, but it will grow all the same. In the next part, we will turn from seeds to mirrors. We will ask how comets reflect our fears, our hopes, our desire for meaning. We will look at them not only as gardeners, but as teachers, showing us who we are by the way we respond to their brief and fragile glow. For now, breathe slowly. Let your body sink deeper. Imagine yourself as a seed, safe in the soil, waiting for light. Imagine comets passing overhead, scattering more seeds. And imagine the garden of the universe, blooming endlessly, patiently, beautifully, one comet, one life, one seed at a time. When we gaze at a comet streaking across the sky, we are not only looking outward, we are also looking inward. For comets, more than perhaps any other celestial visitor, act like mirrors. They reflect our fears, our hopes, our longing for meaning. Think of the shepherds, kings, and poets of ancient times. When they saw a comet, they did not only see ice and dust. They saw omens of doom, promises of change, portents of destiny. In the fiery trail of light, they glimpsed their own worries, war, famine, the rise and fall of kingdoms. The sky was a mirror for their anxieties, but it was also a mirror for hope. In some cultures, comets were not curses but blessings, signals that something new was about to begin, that the universe was not finished with its surprises. The same streak of light could mean death to one and rebirth to another. The difference was not in the comet itself, but in the eyes that watched it. And isn't that always true of mirrors? They do not create, they reflect. So when we speak of Swan and 3i divided by Atlas, we are speaking not only of icy bodies but of our own reflections. For some, their fragility may stir fear, fear that opportunity is fleeting, that life is fragile, that destruction waits just beyond sight. For others, their journeys may awaken wonder, that across endless space, something so small can travel so far and still carry the potential for life. Pause here, inhale, exhale. Let the idea settle that comets are not only out there in space, but also in here, within us. Think of your own life. How often have you treated events as omens, as signs? A sudden meeting that feels fated, a loss that feels like a warning, a coincidence that feels like guidance. These are your comet's moments that blaze briefly, then vanish, leaving you with questions rather than answers. You project your fears onto them. You project your hopes onto them, and in that way they reflect you. Perhaps this is why comets feel so haunting. They are both real and symbolic, both physical and psychological. They carry molecules of carbon and water, but they also carry the weight of our imagination. They blur the line between science and myth, between matter and meaning. Swan and 3i divided by Atlas, as interstellar comets, intensify that mirror. Because they come from beyond, they feel even less like accidents and more like messages. And so we reflect even more onto them. If they survive, perhaps we tell ourselves that survival is possible for us too. If they are destroyed, perhaps we fear that our own messages, our own stories, will never be delivered. This is the mirror at work. Comets are not the source of our feelings, they are the surfaces that reveal them. Take another breath. Let your body sink deeper. Imagine yourself standing by a still lake at night. Above you, a comet passes, its tail mirrored in the water. You see the comet twice, once in the sky, once in the reflection. And in that reflection, you see yourself too, your face faintly lit by the glow, your eyes wide with wonder. This is how comets work. They show us the sky, and they show us ourselves within it. Now ask yourself, what do you see in Swan and 3i divided by Atlas? Do you see fragility or resilience? Do you see failure or transformation? Do you see meaningless ice or sacred messengers? The answer says as much about you as it does about them. This is why they matter, even if they never arrive intact, because in reflecting us, they teach us. They teach us that meaning is not given, it is made. They teach us that we cannot help but look for ourselves in the stars. They teach us that fear and hope are not opposites, but twins, both born from the same act of reflection. And maybe this is why comets unsettle us more than planets or stars. Stars are steady, planets follow predictable paths. They reassure us with their stability. Comets, by contrast, are unpredictable, fragile, fleeting. They remind us that nothing is guaranteed. And yet, by reminding us, they also remind us to cherish what is here, what is now, what is fleeting. Swan and 3i divided by Atlas may or may not survive, but their story has already reflected something in us. Their names, their brief appearances, have already made us wonder, already made us see our fragility and our hope more clearly. In that sense, they have already succeeded. So tonight, let them be mirrors for you. Let them reflect not only your worries, but also your resilience. Not only your fear of endings, but also your wonder at beginnings. Look into their tails as into a mirror of light and see yourself glowing back. In the next part, we will step away from mirrors and into thresholds. We will explore the ancient idea that comets are not just reflections, but guardians of passage, standing at the gates between worlds. We will ask what it means to see them not as mirrors, but as thresholds that must be crossed. For now, breathe deeply once more. Inhale, exhale. See yourself reflected in the glow of comets. And know that what you fear and what you hope are both part of the same light, shining back at you from across the cosmos. Throughout human history, whenever people imagined a crossing from one world to another, from life to death, From ignorance to wisdom, there were almost always guardians. Thresholds were never left unguarded. Gates were watched, passages were protected. In myth, you can find them everywhere. In Greek stories, Cerberus, the three-headed dog, guarded the underworld so that no soul might leave without permission. In Norse tales, Heimdall stood at the Rainbow Bridge Bifrost, watching with eyes that never slept. In Egyptian lore, spirits passed through gates where guardians demanded passwords, questions, or offerings before entry. Why? Because a threshold is powerful. It is the moment when something changes, when one state becomes another. To cross a threshold is to be transformed, and such moments are rarely free. Now, imagine comets SWAN and 3i divided by Atlas, not merely as travelers, but as threshold crossers. They move between worlds, from the emptiness between stars into the domain of our Sunday. They carry with them stories, molecules, possibilities. They do not stay, they pass through. And in their passing, they mark the crossing of boundaries. What if, like the souls in myth, comets too must face gatekeepers? What if the destruction of some comets is not random, but ritual, a kind of cosmic test at the border, deciding which travelers may pass, which messages may be delivered, which seeds may be planted? Pause here. Inhale softly. Exhale slowly. Let that idea rest in your mind, like a stone placed at the center of a still pond. Thresholds are not only cosmic, they are personal. Think of your own life. How many thresholds have you crossed? The day you left childhood and stepped into adulthood, the moment you left home for the first time, the day you said goodbye to someone you loved, the hour you began something new. Each of these was a gate, and each had a guardian, sometimes an external challenge, sometimes an inner fear. You could not simply walk through. You had to prove something. You had to be changed. Perhaps this is why we see comets as more than ice. Their brief appearance at the edge of the sky feels like a gate opening, a reminder that boundaries exist even in the heavens. To witness them is to be reminded that we, too, are travelers, always crossing from one state to another. Imagine SWAN approaching the solar system. At the threshold of the sun's influence, forces gather. Solar winds, magnetic storms, gravitational tides. These are not just physics. They are gatekeepers. They test the comet's strength, its cohesion, its fragility. Some comets break here, scattered before they can cross. Others survive, entering the inner solar system, glowing brightly, delivering their messages. Now imagine 3i, divided by Atlas, an interstellar traveler. It does not belong to us. It is foreign, a stranger at our gate. Perhaps its trial is even greater, its guardians stricter. Will it be allowed to pass? Or will it be torn apart before its dust can scatter? The metaphor deepens when you see yourself as the comet. You, too, face thresholds. Each one has its gatekeepers. Fear, doubt, circumstance. Sometimes they scatter you. Sometimes they let you through. But either way, you are changed. Even if you break, your dust falls. Even if you fail, your fragments scatter seeds. Nothing is wasted. Pause again. Notice your breath. Inhale, exhale. Gatekeepers, in myth, are not always cruel. They are often necessary. Without them, the threshold would mean nothing. If every soul entered freely, the underworld would not feel sacred. If every hero crossed the bridge without trial, the story would not hold power. The gatekeepers create meaning. They shape the passage. So too with comets. Their fragility, their danger, their possibility of destruction. These are the guardians at their threshold. Without them, their journeys would be ordinary. With them, their journeys become stories. Perhaps that is why we are drawn to them. They remind us that every crossing in life, no matter how small, carries weight, that every step forward requires courage, that transformation is never free. Now imagine yourself standing at a threshold tonight. Perhaps it is not dramatic. Perhaps it is as simple as the threshold of sleep, the moment when waking gives way to dreaming. Even here, there are guardians, your restless thoughts, your lingering worries, your unfinished tasks. They stand like sentinels asking, "Are you ready to cross?" And as you listen to these words, perhaps you feel yourself answering, "Yes, I am ready. I am ready to pass into rest, to let the guardians step aside, to let the threshold open." So, as you drift further, remember Swan and 3I divided by Atlas. They too are at thresholds. They too face guardians. Whether they survive or not, their crossing has meaning. Whether they deliver their messages or scatter their dust, their journeys remind us that thresholds are sacred. In the next part, we will return from myth to science, looking at the natural forces that might act as guardians for comets, solar radiation, gravity, and cosmic weather. We will see how physics itself becomes the gatekeeper, deciding who survives and who shatters. For now, rest at your own threshold. Let the guardians fade, let the passage open, and step gently into the next world of sleep, of dreams, of quiet wonder. In the last part, we imagined comets at thresholds, facing guardians drawn from myth. But perhaps the guardians are not mythical at all. Perhaps they are natural forces of physics that, in their own quiet way, test every traveler that dares to cross into the inner solar system. Consider the Sunday from Earth. It seems so steady, rising, setting, warming our days. But the sun is not gentle. It is a storm, a furnace of plasma, a constant explosion held together by its own gravity. Its light gives life, but it also destroys. To a comet, approaching the sun is like walking into fire. Solar radiation sears its surface, vaporizing ice into gas. The once solid core begins to hiss, crack, crumble. Some survive the trial, glowing even brighter as their tails flare with sunlight. Others shatter, undone by the heat. Pause here. Inhale. Exhale. Let the image form. A fragile comet drifting closer, closer. Its icy shell glows. Its tail stretches. Then, silence. A fracture, a scattering of dust. The sun has spoken, not this one. Now think of gravity. To us, gravity feels invisible, an unnoticed companion keeping our feet on the ground. But in space, gravity is a gatekeeper with immense power. As comets pass near planets, they are tugged, pulled, redirected. Jupiter, especially, acts as a guardian of sorts. Its immense gravity, catching comets, bending their paths, sometimes swallowing them entirely. In this way, Jupiter has both saved Earth from impacts and stolen comets before they could reach us. It is like a guard at the border, sometimes letting travelers through, sometimes diverting them away. And then there is cosmic weather. Beyond planets and stars, space is not empty. It hums with radiation, magnetic storms, solar winds. These invisible forces sweep across comets like unseen hands. A burst of solar wind can strip a comet's tail. A cosmic ray can shatter its fragile surface. To us, these forces are distant abstractions. To a comet, they are trials, questions, guardians asking silently, "Can you endure?" Perhaps these natural forces are what people once imagined as dragons, gods, or spirits at the gates. Physics and myth are two languages telling the same story, that every crossing has a cost, that survival is never guaranteed. Pause again. Feel your own breath. Notice how even your body knows thresholds. You, too, face forces, stress, change, uncertainty that test your strength. They are your solar radiation, your gravity, your storms, and like comets, sometimes you survive intact, sometimes you scatter. Either way, the journey continues. Think of how many comets have perished unseen. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. Their names never spoken, their paths never recorded. And yet, in their destruction, they still scattered dust. That dust still drifted. Some of it may have fallen into planets, moons, atmospheres. Even in breaking, they delivered something. Swan and 3I divided by Atlas face these same guardians. Solar radiation will test them. As they near the Sunday, gravity will tug at them, pulling them into new orbits or shattering them. Cosmic storms may sweep through them. They may not survive, or they may endure, glowing brighter for the trial. Imagine for a moment that you are one of them. You drift silently, carrying within you the chemistry of distant stars. Ahead lies the sun, radiant, merciless. Around you, the pull of giant planets, the breath of solar winds. You feel yourself tested, stretched, fractured. And yet, you continue, scattering pieces of yourself into the void. Whether you survive whole or broken, your dust carries forward. This is the lesson of natural guardians. They do not hate, they do not choose, they simply test. The trial itself is the meaning. Survival is rare, but scattering is inevitable. Both matter. Now, turn the metaphor inward again. Think of the guardians in your own life, those forces that tested you, sometimes breaking you, sometimes strengthening you. Were they enemies or were they necessary? Perhaps both. Perhaps neither. Perhaps they were like the sun, fierce, unforgiving, but also the source of growth. Perhaps they were like gravity pulling you off course, but also keeping you grounded. Perhaps they were like storms, destructive, but also cleansing. Swan and 3I divided by Atlas remind us that guardians are everywhere. Some visible, some invisible, some external, some internal. We cannot avoid them, but we can pass through them, or scatter because of them, or transform beneath their weight. Pause once more. Inhale, exhale. Feel the calm of knowing that guardians are not mistakes. They are part of the journey. So, as you rest tonight, imagine Swan and 3I divided by Atlas approaching their guardians. Picture them glowing brighter, tails stretching, dust scattering. Whether they survive or not, they continue the story, and so do you. In the next part, we will explore the stranger possibility that guardians are not only natural, but perhaps intentional. That there could be intelligence hidden in the cosmos, deciding what passes and what does not. Not myth, not physics, but something in between. For now, let yourself drift. The guardians of your own life stand at your thresholds, but they do not forbid you from resting. Tonight, they step aside. Tonight, the passage is open. We have wandered through myth and science, through guardians of legend and guardians of physics. But what if there is another layer, one even stranger? What if some guardians are not storms or suns, but minds? What if there is intelligence hidden, vast, quiet, that chooses which comets survive and which are destroyed? Pause here. Inhale, exhale. Let the thought arrive gently, without resistance. At first glance, the idea feels impossible. The universe is too vast, too cold, too indifferent for intention. Stars burn, comets crumble, galaxies spin not because someone wills them to, but because gravity and physics demand it. That is the scientific comfort, a cosmos of rules, not of personalities. And yet, we are here. Consciousness exists. Intention exists. Somewhere, along the path from dust to life, awareness bloomed. If it happened once, why not again? Why not larger, stranger, older than we can imagine? Suppose, then, that intelligence might not only live in bodies like ours. Suppose it could be woven into patterns of galaxies, into magnetic fields, into the very fabric of space. To such an intelligence, comets would not be random ice. They would be couriers, letters, seeds, messages. And like any storyteller, such a mind might choose which letters are delivered, which seeds are planted, which messages are allowed to be read. Imagine Swan and 3I divided by Atlas drifting closer, their icy bodies glowing as sunlight touches them. Now imagine an unseen presence watching, not hostile, not friendly, simply attentive. It waits. It considers, will these comets be allowed to pass? Or will they be broken, their dust scattered into silence? This thought is unsettling because it shifts the universe from indifferent to intimate. It suggests that what happens to comets is not just chance, but choice. That somewhere, somehow, the cosmos itself is deciding. Have you ever felt that way in your own life? As though someone, something, unseen was shaping your path. A job lost that led you to a better one. A chance meeting that changed everything. A door closed, another opened. Some call it fate, some call it luck, some call it God. Whatever the name, the feeling is the same. That events are not entirely random, that some pattern, some intelligence moves through them. Perhaps comets feel the same. Perhaps their destructions, their survivals, are not only the work of gravity and sunlight, but also of something more deliberate. Perhaps the universe edits its story, choosing which messengers are read and which are silenced. Pause again. Let your breath deepen. Inhale. Exhale. Do not rush to decide. Just wonder. There are scientists who entertain ideas like this, not in mythic language, but in speculation about the cosmos as a whole. Some suggest the universe may be a simulation, shaped by rules chosen by some intelligence beyond it. Others wonder if galaxies themselves could be forms of life, their patterns echoing nervous systems at unimaginable scales. A few ask whether consciousness might be a property not only of brains, but of matter itself, a field, a presence, a hidden mind everywhere. If any of these are true, then comets might not be accidents. They might be chosen. They might be allowed or erased according to purposes we cannot fathom. Think of how this changes the story of Swan and 3I divided by Atlas. Instead of fragile wanderers at the mercy of chance, they become participants in a conversation. Their destruction would not be silence, but an answer. Their survival would not be luck, but permission. And what of us? If we are readers of this story, then we are also participants. Our wonder, our questions, our reflections, these may themselves be part of the dialogue. When you ask, what if something is trying to destroy Swan and 3I divided by Atlas before they reach us? You are not only speculating, you are answering back. You are speaking into the silence, and perhaps the silence listens. This is not a claim, not a certainty, but a possibility. And possibilities are enough for nights like this. They remind us that we are not trapped in boredom or indifference. We are surrounded by mystery. Now let the thought soften. Imagine the hidden intelligence not as a person, not as a god, but as a presence, quiet, vast, woven into every star. It does not shout, it does not command. It simply observes, guides, edits, like a gardener thinning seedlings so that some may grow stronger, like a storyteller removing lines so that the tale flows more clearly, like a composer choosing which notes to play, which to hold in silence. SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas may or may not survive. If they do, perhaps it is because the presence allowed it. If they don't, perhaps it is because their message is not meant for us. Either way, the story continues. Either way, meaning remains. Turn inward once more. Think of your own life in this light. The times you were scattered, the times you were spared, the times you arrived, the times you were silenced. What if each was part of a larger pattern? What if, even when you felt lost, something was guiding, shaping, choosing? Does that thought frighten you, or does it comfort you? Perhaps both. Perhaps that is what makes it powerful. Take another breath. Inhale gently, exhale fully. Let the possibility rest in you like a quiet ember. In the next part, we will expand further beyond hidden intelligences into myths of cosmic gatekeepers, told across cultures, and how those myths echo in the way we see comets today. We will look at how our ancestors gave names to these unseen forces, and how those names still linger in our imaginations. But for now, drift with this thought. Maybe comets are not just travelers. Maybe they are couriers whose journeys are noticed, weighed, and judged by intelligences we cannot yet comprehend. Maybe destruction is not always chance. Maybe survival is not always luck. Maybe, in the silence of the cosmos, choices are being made. And maybe, just maybe, we are part of that conversation too. Long before telescopes, long before equations explained gravity or radiation, people still sensed something about thresholds. They knew, instinctively, that crossing from one state to another was never simple. Every door had a guard, every passage carried a trial. And so they told stories of gatekeepers beings who stood watch at the boundaries of the world. In Chinese mythology, dragons were often guardians of rivers, mountains, and the heavens. They were not merely beasts but keepers of balance, deciding when rains would fall, when floods would rise, when storms would clear. To cross into their realm meant passing through their power. In the Middle East, tales spoke of angels with flaming swords who guarded Eden's gate, preventing any from returning once they had been cast out. The story was not just about a garden. It was about the impossibility of going backward, about the presence of guardians at every threshold of life. In Norse tradition, Heimdall stood at the rainbow bridge Bifrost, the link between earth and the realm of the gods. He had eyes that could see 100 leagues and ears that could hear the grass grow. Nothing could pass his watch unnoticed. To cross the bridge, one had to be worthy or face his horn, summoning the end of worlds. In Egypt, the journey of the soul after death was imagined as a passage through gates. At each gate, spirits or deities posed riddles, demanded answers, required offerings. Only those who knew the words, who carried the right spells or amulets, could pass safely. The gates themselves were guardians, ensuring that transformation into the afterlife was not given freely. Even in Greece, the underworld was guarded by Cerberus, the three-headed hound, loyal to Hades. Souls could enter easily enough, but to leave? Impossible without tricking, bribing, or overpowering the guardian. The boundary was sacred, and the guardian ensured it stayed that way. Why did so many cultures imagine such beings? Because they recognized a truth. Transitions are powerful. Life to death, ignorance to knowledge, childhood to adulthood, one world to another. These thresholds are not casual. They demand recognition, reverence, sometimes sacrifice. And so, in myth, guardians were given faces, names, weapons. They embodied the resistance that every traveler must face. Now, think of comets SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas as travelers approaching thresholds. From the silence between stars, they enter the domain of our Sunday. To us, the sun's pull, its heat, its storms are natural forces. But to ancient eyes, they would have been dragons, gods, spirits. The comets, glowing and fragile, were like souls at the gate, tested before they could pass. Imagine SWAN facing a dragon of fire solar radiation breathing down on its icy core. Imagine 3I divided by Atlas, standing before a three-headed guardian of gravity, each head a planet tugging at its path, demanding tribute. Imagine them carrying their messages like offerings, trying to prove their worthiness to cross into the inner solar system. This is more than metaphor, it is continuity. Our myths were early attempts to describe what science now measures. We may no longer call them dragons or angels, but we still know that thresholds are guarded. We still know that comets face trials. We still know that not every traveler survives. Pause here. Breathe deeply. Inhale. Exhale. Let the stories echo softly inside you. And notice something. The myths of gatekeepers were never only about punishment. They were also about meaning. The guardians made the crossing significant. Without them, the passage would be empty. With them, it became sacred. Perhaps the same is true for comets. If every comet survived easily, we might not notice them. They would be ordinary. But because they are fragile, because so many are destroyed, the few that glow across our sky feel miraculous. Their trials give them meaning. Now, turn inward again. Think of the gatekeepers you have faced. Not mythical beasts, but challenges that stood at your thresholds. Exams before graduation, fear before change, grief before healing, doubt before love. Each was a guardian, demanding something of you before you could cross. Sometimes you passed, sometimes you faltered, but each time you were transformed. The myths remind us. Resistance is not random. It is part of the passage. The guardians are not there to stop us forever, but to test, to shape, to make the crossing real. And so, when we wonder whether something is trying to destroy Swan and 3I divided by Atlas, perhaps we are tapping into the oldest of instincts, that travelers at thresholds always face guardians. Whether dragons of fire, hounds of shadow, or storms of plasma, the lesson is the same. Every crossing has a cost. Every passage requires change. Pause again. Feel your breath. Inhale gently. Exhale fully. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let yourself imagine standing before a threshold. It might be a shining gate, a bridge of light, a dark river. Before it stands a guardian, silent but immense. You are not afraid. You know this is how it must be. You take a step forward, carrying the story of your life like an offering. The guardian watches. The trial begins. And somewhere far above, Swan and 3I divided by Atlas drift toward their own thresholds, their own guardians. Whether they pass or break, their journeys mirror ours. Fragile, fleeting, but filled with meaning. In the next part, we will explore a thought experiment. What if Swan and 3I divided by Atlas do not survive? What if their messages are lost before they arrive? What does that silence mean for science, for myth, for us? For now, let the guardians rest in your mind, not as enemies, but as reminders. Every threshold matters. Every crossing changes us. Every traveler, comet or human, carries an offering, and every offering is weighed. Let us imagine, just for a moment, that Swan and 3I divided by Atlas never reach us. Imagine that before they can approach, they break apart, scattered by heat, torn by gravity, erased by forces unseen. No bright tails sweep across our skies. No dust samples are gathered. No chemistry is studied. Their stories remain untold. What would that mean? At first, it might feel like loss. A letter torn before being opened. A gift broken before unwrapped. The sense that something precious has slipped through our fingers, forever unread. Scientists might sigh. Astronomers might record the fragments. And the news might pass quietly. Another comet, gone before its time. But if we pause, if we let the silence deepen, another meaning emerges. The loss itself becomes a message. The vanishing is not absence, it is presence in another form. Think of a concert where the final note is never played. The silence left behind is heavier than sound. It makes you lean forward, waiting for something that never comes. That waiting changes you. It reminds you that not all stories end neatly. Not all journeys arrive. Sometimes, incompletion is the point. If Swan and 3I divided by Atlas vanish before arriving, they remind us of impermanence. They remind us that the universe does not owe us closure, that we live in a story where not every chapter is revealed. And that, too, is part of wonder. Pause here. Inhale slowly. Exhale gently. Let the thought of absence settle, soft and quiet. Now, imagine the comets breaking apart, not violently, but delicately like snowflakes melting on your hand. Their icy hearts fracture, tails unravel, dust scatters. The fragments drift, invisible to us, carried by solar winds into the dark. To our eyes, they are gone. To the universe, they are only transformed. Some of that dust may fall into other worlds. Some may spiral into the Sunday. Some may wander for millions of years before settling on a distant moon. Even in their destruction, they scatter seeds. Even in their silence, they speak. Perhaps that is the lesson. That not all messages are meant for us. Some letters are delivered elsewhere. Some seeds sprout in gardens we will never see. Some stories bloom in the dark, far beyond our reach. And yet, the mere knowledge that Swan and 3I divided by Atlas existed is already enough. We saw their beginnings, we named them. We wondered about them. Even if they vanish, their presence has already shaped us. They have entered our imagination. They have reminded us of fragility, of distance, of possibility. That alone is a message delivered. Think again of your own life. How many times have you longed for something that never arrived? A word unspoken, a letter undelivered, a plan abandoned. At the time, it felt empty. But later, perhaps, you realized that the silence itself had meaning. It forced you to pause, to reflect, to see differently. The absence was not nothing, it was a teacher. So too with comets. If they vanish, they are not erased. They become silence that teaches. They become absence that reflects. They become the reminder that not everything is meant for us, and that is part of the beauty of living in a vast, ungraspable cosmos. Pause again. Feel your breath. Inhale, exhale. Let the quiet between breaths remind you that silence is as real as sound. Now imagine you are watching the night sky. You wait for a comet you were promised. Astronomers told you it would pass, bright and clear. Night after night, you look up, but it never appears. At first, disappointment. Then, slowly, wonder. Where did it go? What happened? The absence lingers, reshaping your sense of the sky. You no longer see only what is there, you feel also what is missing. That feeling, too, is a kind of arrival. If Swan and 3I divided by Atlas vanish before arriving, they may do more than if they survived. Their destruction may speak louder than their presence. For in vanishing, they remind us of all the unseen comets, all the silent messages, all the lost letters of the cosmos. They remind us how rare it is to receive anything at all, and that rarity makes each surviving comet even more precious. In a way, their absence is a gift. It teaches us humility. It teaches us that the universe does not bend to our curiosity, that discovery is not guaranteed, that meaning must sometimes be found, not in presence, but in loss. And yet, absence is never truly empty. Just as a broken comet still scatters dust, a vanished opportunity still leaves traces. Perhaps we do not hold the comet's molecules, but we hold its memory. Perhaps we do not see its glow, but we feel the wonder it stirred in us. That too is survival. That too is delivery. So tonight, as you rest, hold this thought. Not every comet arrives. Not every message is read. Not every story is finished. But even the unfinished, the unread, the lost can shape us, sometimes more deeply than what survives. In the next part, we will explore the possibility of abundance. What if, instead of vanishing, comets are everywhere? What if the universe is filled with them, scattering endlessly, ensuring that even if some are lost, others will always arrive? A different vision not of absence, but of overflowing presence. For now, let the silence of Swan and 3I divided by Atlas soothe you. Imagine them dissolving softly, their dust carried away, their messages unread but not erased. Imagine the night sky, empty yet full, silent yet speaking. Imagine the comfort of knowing that even loss is part of the story, and that the story continues. If Part 19 asked us to imagine a universe of lost comets vanishing before they arrive, then tonight, let us turn the picture around. What if, instead, the universe is not defined by scarcity, but by abundance? What if comets are not rare messages, easily torn, but countless letters scattered everywhere, far more than we could ever read? Pause here, inhale, exhale. Let the thought expand inside you like a widening sky. Astronomers believe there are trillions of comets in our solar system alone. Trillions, so many that we could never name them all, never track them all, never even glimpse most of them. And beyond our solar system, every star, every planetary system may carry its own reservoir of icy wanderers. The universe, in this vision, is overflowing with comets. They are not fragile exceptions. They are the rule. Now, imagine that. Instead of a silent void, space becomes a garden endlessly seeded, a library endlessly written, a sky endlessly littered with glowing tails. Most comets never cross our eyes, but they are there, drifting, scattering dust, delivering molecules across the black. Even if SWAN and 3 I divided by Atlas vanish, they are not the only letters. 1,000 more are already on their way. This changes the story. Loss no longer feels final. Destruction no longer feels tragic. For abundance means there will always be more. More seeds scattered, more letters written, more messages drifting. The universe does not risk everything on a single comet. It sends billions. Pause again. Let yourself rest in that reassurance. Breathe slowly. The cosmos is not stingy. It is generous beyond comprehension. Think of rain falling on Earth. A single raindrop might vanish, unnoticed, absorbed into soil, evaporated into air. But rain itself is abundant, endless. You do not weep for the loss of one drop, because you know countless more will fall. Perhaps comets are like rain falling endlessly across the galaxy, some missed, some caught, some forgotten, some remembered. Even if one evaporates, the storm continues. From this view, SWAN and 3 I divided by Atlas are not singular miracles. They are part of a great flood of miracles, countless icy messengers sweeping across the galaxy. Their abundance makes survival likely, even if many perish. Their numbers ensure that some messages will always be delivered. And isn't that how life feels too? Fragile, yes, but also abundant. Cells dividing endlessly, forests sprouting after fire, generations rising after loss. We grieve for individuals, but the larger pattern continues, endlessly fertile, endlessly renewing. Life is abundant. And so, perhaps, are comets. Pause here. Picture a field of dandelions gone to seed. The wind blows, scattering hundreds of white tufts. Most will never grow. They will fall on stone, on pavement, on barren ground. But some will land in soil, some will sprout, some will bloom again. Comets are like those seeds, scattered endlessly, trusting that abundance will ensure success. From this perspective, interference, even destruction, is not frightening. It is simply part of abundance. A gardener knows not every seed must grow. A storyteller knows not every draft must survive. A musician knows not every note must be heard. The beauty is in the abundance, the overflow, the sheer generosity of creation. So what does this mean for us, waiting here on Earth? It means that even if SWAN and 3 I divided by Atlas do not survive, others will come. Even if some letters are torn, the library will never be empty. Even if some seeds fail, the garden will never be barren. And maybe this, too, reflects our own lives. For every dream that vanishes, another appears. For every opportunity lost, another is born. For every silence, another voice rises. Abundance is not about clinging to one comet, one seed, one message. It is about trusting that more will come, always more. Pause again. Inhale. Exhale. Let the thought comfort you. You are not living in a world of scarcity. You are living in a universe of abundance. Even in your own heart, abundance flows. You have more kindness to give than you realize, more creativity than you have expressed, more love than you have spoken. Like the comets, you carry countless seeds, and you scatter them daily through words, through gestures, through presence. Most will vanish unnoticed, but some will sprout in places you cannot see, and that is enough. So tonight, imagine the sky not as empty, but as overflowing. Imagine comets beyond counting, each glowing faintly, each carrying dust, each scattering seeds. Some arrive, some vanish, some are destroyed, some survive. It does not matter, for the abundance itself is the message. The universe is not poor, it is rich beyond measure. In the next part, we will explore what it means to live with that awareness, how to walk gently in a universe of abundance, how to see every comet, every seed, every life, not as isolated, but as part of an endless flow. For now, let yourself rest in the vision. A sky filled not with emptiness, but with countless comets. A universe overflowing with messages. A garden forever blooming. A library forever being written. And in that abundance, you are not lost. You are included. You are one of the seeds, one of the letters, one of the comets. Fragile, yes. Fleeting, yes. But also part of something endless. If the last part painted a universe of abundance, overflowing with comets like seeds, tonight let us turn to another possibility, one quieter, more sobering. What if Earth is rare? What if, among all the countless seeds scattered, almost none ever sprout? Pause here, inhale gently, exhale slowly. Let the question hang in the air like starlight. We know that comets scatter molecules everywhere, carbon, water, amino acids. We know planets form around stars across the galaxy. Billions of stars, billions of planets, billions of opportunities. On paper, it seems inevitable that life would bloom again and again. And yet, we have looked, we have listened, and so far we have found only silence. What if Earth is the exception? What if, among the countless barren worlds, ours is one of the rare gardens where seeds took root? Imagine walking through a desert, endless and silent, grains of sand stretching in every direction, and then, suddenly, you find one fragile flower blooming against all odds. That is Earth. A bloom in a cosmic desert. A rare, precious oasis where life took hold. If this is true, then Swan and 3I divided by Atlas feel even more fragile, for they are seeds drifting through a desert where almost nothing grows. If they are destroyed before arriving, perhaps it does not matter, because even if they survived, the chances of sprouting elsewhere are slim. The desert does not welcome flowers. It swallows them. Pause again. Notice how this thought feels different from abundance. It is not comforting, but it is humbling. It makes every moment of life on Earth feel rare, precious, unrepeatable. Think of your own life in this way. Out of billions of possibilities, you exist. Out of countless seeds that never sprouted, you are here, breathing, listening, alive. You are a miracle of rarity, a flower in the desert. Now, imagine the parallel possibilities. In some universes, Earth never bloomed. The comets arrived, but the soil was barren. The oceans remained chemical soups, never quickening into cells. Those Earths are silent, lifeless. But in this one, in ours, the seeds awakened. That parallel difference, life or no life, changes everything. This is the haunting beauty of rarity. It means that every breath, every moment, is more valuable than we realize. Life is not inevitable. It is extraordinary. And yet, rarity is not despair. A single flower in a desert may still scatter seeds. A single Earth may still send life outward. Comets brought seeds here, and perhaps one day we will send seeds back spacecraft carrying microbes, fragments of DNA, whispers of humanity drifting into the void. Even in a barren universe, abundance can begin with one. Pause, inhale deeply, Exhale softly. Let the thought comfort you. Even in a desert, blooming is possible. Think of the parallels again. In one possibility, Swan survives, scattering seeds across the solar system. In another, it vanishes before arrival. In one timeline, 3I divided by Atlas delivers molecules to a fertile world. In another, it burns away unseen. The cosmos may be filled with these parallel stories, some blooming, some failing, some forever silent. And we, here on Earth, live in the rare branch where life succeeded. That awareness is both fragile and empowering. It means we carry responsibility. We are the bloom in the desert. We are the rare message that arrived intact. And perhaps our role now is to scatter seeds of our own through exploration, through kindness, through imagination, so that rarity does not end here. Swan and 3I divided by Atlas, whether they survive or not, remind us of this responsibility. They are mirrors of possibility, reflections of how precarious life is. They ask us to treasure what we have, to recognize how rare it is, to live not carelessly but carefully. So tonight, as you rest, hold this thought: you are rare. Your life, your breath, your presence is improbable beyond measure. You are not just another grain of sand in the desert. You are the flower, the exception, the bloom. And perhaps that is why comets feel like messengers. Not because they bring new life, but because they remind us of the rarity of life already here. They whisper, softly, do not forget how precious you are. Do not forget how unlikely it is that you exist. Do not forget to bloom while you can. In the next part, we will reflect on the possibility that even if life is rare, the act of scattering seeds by comets, by humans, by time itself is an act of faith, a trust that somewhere, sometime, another bloom will rise. For now, breathe slowly. Inhale, exhale. Imagine the desert of the cosmos, silent, endless. And in that desert, picture Earth, glowing softly, a fragile bloom in the dark, rare, precious, alive. Even if life is rare, even if most worlds are barren, still the scattering continues. Comets scatter their dust, stars scatter their light, humans scatter their words, their kindness, their dreams. Scattering is an act of faith. It is trust without certainty, hope without guarantee. Think of a farmer sowing seeds in a field. The farmer knows that not every seed will sprout. Some will fall on hard ground. Some will be eaten by birds. Some will wither without water. And yet, the farmer scatters anyway, because it only takes a few seeds to grow into abundance. The act itself is faith. Comets are like those farmers. Swan and 3I, divided by Atlas, carry their fragile molecules across the galaxy, not knowing if any will ever sprout. Most will fall into voids, into barren worlds, into flames. But still they scatter, because even if the chances are small, the possibilities are infinite. Pause here, inhale gently, exhale slowly. Let that image settle in your heart. We too live this way. We scatter words, not knowing who will hear them. We scatter acts of kindness, not knowing who will remember. We scatter dreams, not knowing which will come true. And yet, we scatter anyway, because to live is to scatter. To exist is to give without knowing the outcome. Perhaps this is why comets feel like mirrors of our lives. They remind us that uncertainty does not erase meaning, that the value of scattering is not only in what grows, but in the act itself. To scatter is to hope. To scatter is to trust. To scatter is to say, even if the chances are small, I will give anyway. Imagine Swan drifting through darkness, its icy surface crumbling as it nears the Sunday dust falls away. Molecules scatter into the void. Most will vanish. But somewhere, perhaps, one fragment will settle on fertile soil. That single fragment may, millions of years later, awaken into life. Swan does not know. but it scatters anyway. Now think of 3I divided by Atlas, a stranger from beyond, carrying chemistry written under a foreign star. It too scatters, fragile and uncertain. Perhaps none of its dust will bloom. Perhaps all of it will vanish into silence. But perhaps, just perhaps, one molecule will find a place to rest, a chance to begin again. This is the faith of comets. They scatter not because they are certain, but because they exist. To carry seeds and release them is their nature. Faith does not require knowledge of the outcome. Faith requires only the courage to give. Pause again. Feel your breath. Inhale. Exhale. Notice how your own life reflects this same rhythm. How many times have you given without knowing what would happen? A kind word to a stranger, a gesture of love, a dream pursued despite doubt. Sometimes the results are invisible. Sometimes they vanish. But sometimes, unexpectedly, they bloom long after you have forgotten. You too are a comet scattering seeds of faith. Every word you speak, every kindness you show, every dream you pursue is a particle of dust carried forward. You may never see where it lands. You may never see what grows. But the act itself is sacred. This is why faith matters. Not religious faith alone, but the broader faith of existing in uncertainty and still giving. The faith of comets, the faith of stars, the faith of life itself. Even evolution is built on this principle. Life scatters endlessly billions of seeds, billions of cells, billions of attempts. Most fail, a few succeed, and those few change everything. Life does not wait for certainty. It trusts in the scattering. Swan and 3I divided by Atlas remind us of this truth. They are not certain messengers. They are scatterers of faith. They say to us, in their silent passing, do not wait for guarantees. Scatter your seeds anyway. Pause once more. Inhale deeply. Exhale fully. Let the quiet strengthen you. Now imagine yourself as a comet. You drift through darkness, fragile but luminous. Within you are seeds, your kindness, your creativity, your dreams. You do not know where they will land. You do not know if they will grow. But you scatter them anyway, because scattering is living. And imagine the universe receiving them. Some fall into silence. Some are carried farther than you can imagine. Some bloom in places you will never see. This is your faith. This is your gift. So tonight, as you rest, let Swan and 3I, divided by Atlas, teach you the quiet courage of scattering. Do not wait for certainty. Do not fear loss. Scatter anyway. Trust that somewhere, sometime, something will bloom. In the next part, we will step deeper into imagination again, picturing what it would look like if comets were gardeners not of Earth alone, but of galaxies, shaping entire cosmic ecosystems with their endless scattering. For now, breathe slowly. Inhale, exhale. Imagine yourself as both seed and sower, both comet and garden, and trust the scattering. Even when the chances are small, even when the outcome is unknown, trust that giving itself is enough. What if comets are not only gardeners of planets, but gardeners of galaxies? What if, across the vast spirals of stars, they drift like wandering hands, scattering seeds not for a single world, but for entire systems? Pause here. Inhale, exhale. Let the thought expand like starlight spreading across darkness. In our solar system, comets bring water, dust, organic molecules. To Earth, they may have delivered the chemistry of life. But what if this is not unique? What if every galaxy, every cluster of stars, has its own swarm of comets endlessly scattering, endlessly planting? The universe itself becomes a cosmic orchard, each star a tree, each comet a bird carrying seeds from branch to branch. Imagine the Milky Way this way: a spiral garden. Its stars are flowers. Its planets are soil. Its comets are gardeners moving in silence, brushing from one bloom to another, leaving pollen of dust and ice behind. Some flowers never open, some petals fall before blooming, but others awaken, slowly, patiently, until whole ecosystems stretch across worlds. And now imagine beyond the Milky Way. Billions of galaxies, each its own garden, each with comets drifting through, scattering seeds of possibility. The cosmos becomes not empty, but fertile. Not barren, but blooming in ways too vast for us to see. Pause again. Let yourself feel the comfort of abundance stretching outward. Even destruction plays a part in this gardening. When comets shatter, their dust spreads farther, carried on solar winds, sprinkled over more planets than a single intact comet could reach. To break is to scatter wider. To vanish is to multiply. This, too, is gardening an unintentional generosity, a reminder that loss is not the end. Perhaps Swan and Three, divided by Atlas, are gardeners of this scale. Their seeds may not bloom here, on Earth, where we watch, but somewhere, in the far future, in another system, on another world, their dust may awaken. Life may rise, unaware that its gardener was a comet from a star no longer even burning. This is the patience of galactic gardening. It does not demand results in days, years, or even millennia. It trusts the slow unfolding of billions of years. It trusts that some seeds, somewhere, sometime, will bloom. Now turn the metaphor inward. Think of your own life as a garden too. You scatter seeds, acts of kindness, moments of courage, sparks of imagination. Most you will never see bloom, but some will. Perhaps long after you are gone. Someone you helped may help another. A word you spoke may echo in generations you will never meet. You too are a galactic gardener, planting beyond your sight, beyond your time. Pause. Inhale deeply, exhale softly. Let the thought soothe you. Galactic gardening also reminds us of humility. We may look for life in the universe and find silence. But silence does not mean emptiness. It may mean that the blooms are rare, far away, still budding. Gardens take time. Seeds do not sprout overnight. The cosmos is still unfolding, still waiting, still blooming. And yet, in this vast scale, Earth becomes even more miraculous. Out of the endless scattering, this tiny planet bloomed. Against all odds, life took hold here. Against all silence, we arose to notice, to ask, to wonder. We are not only part of the garden, we are the garden awake, the flowers turning their faces upward to see the gardener's hand. Think again of Swan and Three, divided by Atlas. From our perspective, they are fragile comets, perhaps destined to shatter. But from the garden's perspective, they are gardeners, scattering endlessly, carrying potential across light years. Whether they survive or break, they plant. Whether we see or not, they give. This is why the metaphor matters. It shifts our focus from outcomes to process. Gardening is not only about blooms, it is about planting, watering, waiting, trusting. Comets embody this. They scatter, they pass, they vanish, and yet the garden grows. So tonight, let yourself rest in the image of a galactic garden. Picture stars as blossoms, galaxies as fields, comets as gardeners drifting between them. Picture Swan and Three, divided by Atlas, carrying tiny seeds of chemistry, scattering them with every step. Picture life sprouting in places we cannot see, nurtured by gardeners who never knew the results of their labor. And then see yourself within that image. You are a gardener too. Every kindness you scatter, every dream you release, every breath you take, is part of the bloom. You may not see the results. You may not know where your seeds fall, but they are carried forward, like comet dust in the wind of time. pause again. Breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the patience of the garden. It does not rush. It does not demand. It trusts the abundance of seeds, the persistence of scattering, the inevitability of bloom. In the next part, we will turn from the grand metaphor back to a more personal one, looking at how comets, in their fragility, teach us to accept interruption, to find meaning in delays, to see value even in the moments when our journeys are cut short. For now, rest with the garden. Imagine galaxies blooming, comets scattering, stars shining. Imagine yourself both flower and gardener, both seed and soil, and know that in the cosmic orchard, you are not forgotten. You are part of the bloom. Every comet begins a journey, but not every comet arrives. Some never cross the threshold of the inner solar system. Some break apart before their tails can bloom. Some scatter into dust, their names barely remembered, their light never seen by human eyes. Their journeys are interrupted. And yet, even in interruption, meaning lingers. Think of Swan and 3I divided by Atlas. If their paths are cut short, if heat fractures their cores, if gravity bends them into silence, does that mean their journeys were wasted? No. It means their stories were different. They may not have arrived whole, but they still scattered. They still gave. They still carried their messages into the void, even if unread by us. Pause here. Inhale. Exhale. Let that thought soften you. We too know interrupted journeys. A plan carefully made, undone by chance. A dream long pursued, halted by circumstance. A relationship that seemed destined, but ended too soon. These interruptions sting because we long for completion. We want the comet to arrive intact. We want the story to finish. But life is rarely so neat. Yet here is the quiet truth. Broken journeys can still be beautiful. A comet shattered still lights the sky with meteor showers. A dream abandoned still teaches resilience. A love lost still leaves tenderness behind. Interruption does not erase, meaning it transforms it. Imagine yourself watching the night sky, waiting for a comet. You hope for a blazing tail, bright and whole. Instead, you see fragments, streaks of meteors, brief flashes of light. At first, disappointment, but then wonder. The fragments are more numerous than the whole comet would have been. Instead of one glowing traveler, the sky is filled with many sparks. The interruption created a different beauty. So it is with life. A path interrupted may scatter into many smaller gifts. A job not taken may open doors to unexpected possibilities. A dream cut short may scatter lessons that bloom in other forms. Even brokenness carries seeds. Pause again. Feel your breath. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Let yourself remember one journey of yours that was interrupted. At the time, it may have felt like failure. But what dust did it scatter? What fragments did it leave behind that later glowed? Sometimes, the shower is more beautiful than the comet itself. SWAN and 3I divided by Atlas remind us of this. If they survive, we will marvel. If they break, we will still marvel. Their beauty is not tied only to arrival. It is tied to presence, however brief, however fragmented. This thought offers comfort for our own interruptions. Life is fragile. Plans are fragile. We are all comets, easily scattered. But fragility is not futility. It is another form of meaning. It is another way of giving. Think of a conversation cut short but remembered, a smile given in passing that lingers, a gesture that seemed small but became significant to someone else. These are fragments, meteor showers of life. They remind us that completeness is not required. Even incomplete journeys shine. And sometimes, delays themselves carry meaning. A comet slowed by gravity takes longer to arrive. A plan delayed by obstacles may arrive at a better time. Interruption does not always mean ending. Sometimes it means pause, redirection, transformation. Imagine a comet pulled off course, missing Earth entirely. To us, it feels like loss, but perhaps its dust will fall somewhere else. awakening life in a place we will never see. Its interruption was another's beginning. So too with us. What feels like failure may be someone else's blessing. What feels like delay may be alignment in disguise. Our journeys are not only ours, they ripple outward, affecting lives we may never know. Pause again. Inhale, exhale. Feel the calm of this truth. Your interrupted journeys still matter. Your scattered dust still shines. Tonight, let Swan and 3 I Divided by Atlas teach you acceptance. Whether they arrive or not, their stories are meaningful. Whether your plans complete or not, your life is meaningful. Perfection is not required. Completion is not necessary. Beauty exists even in fragments, even in delays, even in broken paths. In the next part, we will bring these reflections toward closure. We will gather the threads, comets, as messengers, gardeners, mirrors, thresholds, and weave them into a final meditation, a wind down to rest. For now, let yourself drift. Imagine comets breaking softly, scattering dust across the night. Imagine your own life scattering sparks, even in its interruptions. And know this, you are enough. Whole or broken, arriving or scattered, you are enough. We have traveled far together tonight. From myths of dragons to the physics of sunlight, from the fragility of comets to the abundance of seeds, from reflections of our fears to the mirrors of our hopes. Swan and 3 I Divided by Atlas, 2 fragile travelers, have guided us through questions larger than themselves. Now, as we come to the end, let us slow down. Let us gather the threads. Comets are messengers. They carry molecules across light years, like letters sealed in ice. Some letters arrive, some are torn, but even the torn ones scatter meaning, leaving fragments that glow as meteor showers. Comets are gardeners. They scatter seeds, not knowing which will sprout. Most vanish. A few awaken. Life itself may have begun this way. Patient scattering. Fragile, but faithful. Comets are mirrors. They reflect us. Our fears of loss, our hopes for survival, our longing for meaning. When we see them, we see not only the sky, but ourselves, our fragility, our beauty, our impermanence. Comets are thresholds. They remind us that every crossing requires guardians, trials, change. To approach the sun is to face fire. To pass through life is to face resistance. Yet in the facing, meaning is made. And comets are storytellers. Their very existence is part of the universe's narrative. Some stories end in silence, some in brilliance, but all belong to the book of the cosmos. Pause here, inhale, exhale. Let these images settle gently, like dust falling slowly through air. What then have Swan and 3 I Divided by Atlas taught us? That fragility does not erase meaning, that interruption does not erase value, that abundance and rarity coexist, each reminding us of the miracle of existence. That scattering is enough. That even silence speaks. Perhaps something is trying to destroy them. Perhaps nothing is. Perhaps destruction is only physics, or perhaps it is choice. We may never know, and that is all right. The beauty is in the wondering. The gift is in the question. Now turn inward. Think of your own journey. You are fragile, like a comet. You scatter seeds without certainty. You face thresholds, guardians, interruptions. And yet, you glow. Brief, yes. Impermanent, yes. But luminous, you are part of the same story. Imagine yourself as a comet now, drifting across the night. Your core is fragile, but full of meaning. Behind you trails a tail of light, scattering fragments into the lives of others. You may never know where they land, but somewhere, someone will look up, see your glow, and feel wonder. That is enough. Pause again. Let your breathing slow. Inhale, exhale. Feel the calm of knowing you are part of something vast. As we close, let us return to Earth for a moment. Outside your window, the sky is waiting. Stars glimmer, steady. Perhaps a comet drifts unseen. Perhaps not. Either way, the night is alive with silence and possibility. You are part of that silence. You are part of that possibility. And tomorrow, when you rise, the world will still be here. Oceans, trees, people, dreams, your own seeds to scatter, your own fragments to give. The comets remind us not to wait for certainty. They remind us to give anyway, to glow anyway, to live anyway. So tonight, let Swan and Three-Eye Divided by Atlas fade softly in your mind. Let their journeys drift into your dreams. Whether they survive or not, they have already delivered their message. They have reminded you that life is fragile, luminous, fleeting, and precious. And now, as your eyes grow heavier, as your breath grows slower, let yourself drift too. Drift like a comet through the dark. Drift into rest, into sleep, into the quiet embrace of the night. You are safe, you are enough, you are part of the story. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well. May your dreams be filled with stars, with gardens, with comets scattering seeds across infinite skies. And when you wake, may you rise with the quiet wonder of knowing you, too, are a messenger, fragile, fleeting, but luminous.